that are putting these lies out into the world right now?
Stop. That's it. That's all I have to say. Stop.
All they do is lay in their bed, doom scroll. They're chilling out. They're getting a little fat. It is what it is. I don't know what the average weight is, but they're getting a little heavy. And any guy that is playing the field these days will tell you that.
And Boeing gave me the award for the greatest salesman in the history of Boeing, which was a nice little award. I have a little plaque. The greatest, I think I've sold 1,000 Boeing planes. Can you believe it? Now all they have to do is make them. Okay? They got to make them, but they will.
I mean, and I know a lot of the Chads. I am an incel. I'm friends with a lot of Chads like Bradley Martin, Clavicular. They agree with me. You know, there's sort of like this alliance between the guys that don't have sex and the guys that get the most sex.
A little description of the Trump gold card, please.
Sure. So for an individual, it's $1 million. And for a corporation, it's $2 million. And as the president said, for a corporation, they spend $2 million. They can then have an employee, full vetting, the best vetting the government has ever done.
We know what women are about. It's the guys in the middle. Guys like you in the middle. It's the beta male orbiters that say, she's amazing, you're a misogynistic pig. Because I don't know what that is. I guess
well, come on, let me explain to you.
What's going on, everybody? Today, I'm going to cover a few topics that are just booming in conservative media and podcast media in general. The first one will be Erika Kirk tells Candace Owens to stop talking and conspiracy theorists to stop asking questions. Then I'm going to talk about Nick Fuentes and the Piers Morgan debate. Maybe, perhaps I'll talk about that one before. And then kind of the whole Trump situation going on, because I think all of this stuff sort of overlaps. There's a lot of, in media, what I'll say is people freaking out and just acting like super upset at like Nick or Candace or turning, a lot of all that stuff. But I really want to talk about the psychology behind it, because I think there's a reason that this is all happening. And I don't necessarily think it's a bad thing. I think it's just the reality of what happens when you ignore certain trends, etc., for a long time. So we're going to talk about all that, not just my opinion on the topics, but really why it's happening and why I don't think people should freak out. I don't ever think it's good to freak out and just act like insane, but a lot of the influencers that are bugging out the most, they're not actually making sense about it. So I'm going to go live today. I am live right now. Dream Rare Podcast starts. Give me a thumbs up in the chat if it sounds good, looks good, and we'll start the show now.
It's the Dream Rare Podcast. Welcome to the show. The way to get the news at the desk or on the road. Let's go. God is great and success in our control. The world is crazy, but we get better from obstacles. Yeah.
What's going on Facebook? What's going on YouTube? What's going on Rumble? I'm going to ask people in the chat because I have a little bit to say beforehand, but I'm going to let this be a choose your own adventure show. Would you guys rather hear my take on what Erika Kirk is saying and what Candace is saying, or would you rather hear my take about Nick first? I'm going to say them both, but I'll look in the chat in about 15 seconds, and if I see more Nicks or Erica's or Candace's, I'll start with that. But I do want to talk about, while I'm waiting for your opinion and where to start, I want to talk about our party in general. I talked about it a little bit last time when it came to the Tim Pool thing. Trump is like the quarterback or the coach of our team, and whether people want to admit it or not, I think like super fans of Trump and people that are like ultra MAGA, I'm seeing a lot of Nicks, so I'm going to start with the Nick one. I just saw like 7 Nicks and like 1 or 2 Ericas, so we'll start with the Nick one. But I want to say, like, whether people want to admit it or not, Trump isn't doing a good job of leading. And when your coach, the team gets lost when the coach is not like, respectable or have their, attention and respect. And I think Trump has really lost a lot of people. So I think, not even with the Nick, I think the Nick thing was boiling for years. The GOP really seems like they have a foreign country that they prioritize over America. Nick was kind of the face of that talking point. He got shoved down. Now he's being shoved to the forefront. He's super popular. They're not censoring him anymore. So it's like that was going to happen regardless of what Trump was or wasn't doing, because it's just the reality of politics. And now with the Erika Candace thing, I'll say this because I'll start with Nick, but I do want to read this. And I think it's like the perfect take as far as the whole like people questioning Erika and Turning Point and the FBI and stuff. It's from a page on Twitter. Their name is Being Libertarian. They said more people would believe the official story on Charlie Kirk if the FBI hadn't covered up the Epstein scandal. There's just no credibility there. And I think really that's the perfect take. Like, I'm not going to just play the fence or anything for like, oh, I'm afraid to say something. I'm going to tell you exactly what I think. But regardless of what you think, I think that should make a lot of sense, because the people that are saying like, I can't believe people are questioning it's like, bro, we've lived through lockdowns, 15 days to slow the spread. They extended it. They rushed vaccines. Pretty much no intelligence communities came to our rescue. They all played along. And now that Trump's in, they expect us to think because Dan Bongino and Kash Patel are there, now we just have to officially believe the narrative, or else you're just a crazy, kooky person. And similar to how I think Nick and Candace are both really similar type of characters, where they're both the leaders of what they're doing. Like Nick got called an anti-Semite in 2016. You know, he really battled with Charlie and Ben Shapiro in 2019. And even though you can have similar views to Nick without being Nick and being your own person, the establishment and just really reckless people try to say it's Charlie versus Nick, it's Ben versus Nick. And that's what happened to me in 2019. I'm not going to bore you because I've said it a million times, but I basically got blacklisted because they said I was siding with Nick. I'm not siding with Nick. It's just like, if you give me two opinions, I get to make my own. It's not like, oh, if either condemn Nick and hang out with Ben Shapiro. It's like, I don't like Ben Shapiro. So that's kind of the game that they play. And I'm not blaming Nick or Candace. I just think it's what happens when you become the face of something. Like Trump is the face of MAGA. So whether people agree or not with what he does, he kind of represents everybody. And then for midterms, they try to frame it as Trump versus the left. You know, there's almost like no room for anything else. So with Nick, he's now becoming super popular and he is the face of the dissent on a certain topic. But, and this is no disrespect to him, it doesn't mean like you have to be him or Piers Morgan. There is a way to be yourself. But it's the same thing with the Candace and the whole Erika Kirk and the FBI thing. Candace is now the face of the investigation, saying she doesn't trust what the FBI is saying. So anytime you say something, regardless of how chill or rational you are, etc., they're trying to like, oh, it's a conspiracy theory because she said it because of that. And it's like, is there no room for anyone to be themselves? Why is it always that way? Why is it always like you're either Nick Fuentes or Ben Shapiro? Really? That's the only two options? You're either Candace Owens or you're on, Erika Kirk's side. What if I have my own opinions? What if I don't, what if I don't completely agree with what Turning Point's doing, but at the same time, I'm not like, there's none of that. You're not allowed to be that. You just have to pick a side. I find it really weird, but I'm going to talk about the Nick stuff. And I definitely have a lot of stuff to say about the Erika Kirk and the Turning Point thing. And I definitely think I have some good points to be made, but I'm just going to react to one clip of Nick because there's a whole interview. If you haven't watched it, it's 2 hours. Piers Morgan essentially brings Nick on. He plays his clips, tries to have gotcha moments and say Nick's a racist, a sexist, an anti-Semite, a misogynist. And that's the world that Piers Morgan lives in. He lives in this like British, we don't have free speech, I'm a beta male world of like everything is a word and you're supposed to care because I said you're a racist. It's like, let's give Piers Morgan an award of like the best person ever, even though he's not. He's a total piece of garbage. He's a total con artist. During the pandemic, he was a straight up demon. He blocked me on Twitter because he was shilling the vaccine like harder than most doctors were. He's a scumbag. But, Piers is a really nice guy because he has big bad Nick here and he called him a sexist. And I found it like hilarious because like that's the whole interview. There's ways to make Nick look bad. There's ways to challenge Nick. But I thought Piers did just such a bad job because everything was an ism to him. And it's like, what do you want to do, Piers? Do you want like 5 black people and 5 transgenders and 5 women and 5 Mexicans to stand behind you and take a photo op and be like, look, I'm the least racist person in this room. Somebody get Piers Morgan the least racist award. Like that was the whole vibe of it. It's like, you're so great, Piers. He's so like, it was so funny. But let me play this clip for comedic purposes, and then I could talk about it a little more before we move on. But I found this clip hilarious because Piers Morgan was essentially trying to like, calls himself an incel. He doesn't have sex. So Piers is like, oh, you don't even know about tampons and girls have tampons. And it's like the weirdo, like liberal boomer brain of Piers Morgan. It's like, you're such a simp. You think it's like cool to like hold a tampon for a woman. Like, oh, I'm getting so close to a woman. I have her tampon. It's like, ew. I thought this clip was hilarious. This could be on SNL. So I'm going to play it in 3 clips.
You're white knighting for women's rights.
Well, I think women should have the same rights as you and I. You don't. That's fine.
Put on the pink hat, bro. Put on the pink hat. We're waiting.
What's the pink hat for?
For the march, for the women's march, are we going to see you at the women's march protesting for women's rights and all that?
I think women should have equal rights to men. Period.
You carry tampons in case your female friends get a period or something? Like, it's crazy.
So Piers said he thinks women, they started having like a Catholic Christian argument too. And they were like, oh, he was like, women should have equal rights. In the Bible, it doesn't say women are worse, but it talks about the relationship between God and man and woman and how women and men are different and women should really submit to men. But, apparently Piers doesn't know that. Let's keep listening.
I'd have no problem giving a female friend a tampon, would you? I don't suppose you've ever seen a tampon, have you?
Gross. Absolutely not.
You think tampons are gross?
Yeah, they're filled with period blood. Yeah, it's kind of gross.
Wow.
I'm Piers Morgan. I'm such a manly man and not a sexist that I think tampons are really not gross. They're really cool. It's like, ew, bro. I mean, at best they're just whatever. Like it's like women use them, but like you don't have to sit here and act like you think they're so great. Oh, you think they're gross? It's like, yeah. I mean, kind of. They definitely kind of are. Like what and then he keeps going on about tampons.
Are you into that? You like that?
Have you ever seen
a lot of tampons?
I don't think you've ever seen it, have you?
I've seen them. I've seen them before.
You've been that close to a woman? Really?
No, I've seen them. Look, I used to live with women, so I've seen them around the house.
I bet you've seen videos, haven't you?
What? What are we doing here, Piers?
He's like, oh, you've seen videos. And I wanted to bring up these clips because it just reminds me, and I'm not blaming all boomers and I'm not blaming all people like Piers Morgan and all Brits, but it's this weird thing where like you talk to certain people and this is, of all age groups, but I think especially that generation, it's like they think the most random things are like so cool where they're like, oh, why don't you get laid? Sometimes they say that to me too, like anomaly, get laid. Do I look like I have a massive problem if I wanted to just get laid? Like that's so hard for me to do. I mean, I don't know what I look like or what it appears like, but that's not like, it's not hard for me to do, but also it's not an accomplishment. I'm in my 30s now. So it's like, let me just get wasted and stick my dick in somebody. Like it's not that cool. I like that older generation, like thinks that that's so cool. And it's like the reason that we're in the situation we're in, it's like people aren't married. Everybody's getting divorces. Women are like 35 and single. Like we don't get married early. Nobody wants to get married. Nobody gets along. Women don't want to submit to men. All these things. And a lot of men are not worthy of submitting to blame my own gender as well. So it's like there's all these worldly issues that we're all having. And then you talk to someone like Piers Morgan and they're like, oh, you don't even know what a tampon looks like because you don't get close enough to girls. It's like your generation or you think it's so cool to get close to a girl to look at a tampon. Like, bro, you're such a simp. You're such a beta. It's so pathetic. And then, on my Facebook, sometimes they'll be like, oh, normally can't get laid. Dude, I could get laid probably like a lot every year, all the time if I wanted to. But it's like, why would I want to do that? Like, let me have a kid out of wedlock. Let me, bang some weird chick and get an SC. No, it's like, it's not cool. And then it's also like, yeah, but you could not have a kid if you wrap your dingling in plastic and it's like, just have a little bit of discipline. You know what I'm saying? Like, what about our ancestors when they just got married and had kids? That's what sex is for. Sex is for having kids. So it's like, if your whole goal is to like go to a, Grateful Dead concert and just bang a chick and put plastic around it so you don't have a kid and it feels so cool for 5 seconds, but then you feel shame afterwards. Like none of that is cool. So I just thought that clip was hilarious because Piers Morgan's like the ultimate simp boomer where he's like, you can't get laid. You can't even see a tampon. Who wants to see a tampon, bro? It's not an accomplishment to get so close to a woman that you see her tampon or you like he's talking about watching videos of tampons. It's like, what's wrong with you people? Piers Morgan is such a simp and his whole like British vibe of like, you're a sexist, you're a racist, and you're such a great person, right, Piers? Even though London's being completely overgrown and people who are overtaken and people who look like Piers Morgan won't even really exist in 50 years, but Piers wasn't a racist. Bro, it doesn't make you a better person. Like if me and Piers went to like a black barbecue with all black people, they wouldn't talk to Piers like, oh, Piers is so cool. Piers is weird. You know what I'm saying? Black people would think he's weird. He'd be like, I'm not a racist. Jussie Smollett was telling the truth. It's like, all right, Piers, like no black people like you. Relax. I'm sure you have like a few black friends and celebrities and stuff, but like telling people how not racist you are all the time is like not. It just made Nick look way better than Piers. And then same with women. I don't think women like guys that are total simps. I think women look at guys like that and they're like, I need to go get my thrills elsewhere because this guy's not doing it for me. So it's like telling a woman like, I'll carry your tampons, milady. I'll carry them for you. I'll look at them. I'll hold them in my little man purse. Cool, bro. Congratulations. I'll get laid one day, says Piers. Okay, bro. Drink enough. Find some loser, ugly chick that wants to bang. Oh, wow. Wow, you got laid. Congrats. Like it's this massive accomplishment. Oh, man, did you get laid this weekend? How old are you? Like, what did your generation do? Your generation thought the moon landing was real. You believed all the narratives about World War II and NATO and EU and UN. And now there's no sovereignty in Europe whatsoever. All of your countries are falling apart, but at least you're not a misogynist, Piers Morgan. Good for it's like that's what the whole I could talk about this interview for a while, but I'll move on to the Erika stuff in a little bit. You can really summarize it as that. It's like, is Nick edgy? Yes. Has he said some things that are funny? Yes. Has he said some things to people that aren't funny, that are mean and hurtful and all these things? Sure. But if you put Piers and Nick together, it's like Nick is funny and Piers is like such a loser. I was just listening to the whole thing. I'm like, bro, you're such a loser. So it was a pretty funny interview. Piers is insufferable. And I think people don't understand why Nick's getting popular, but look at the amount of views on the Piers Morgan interview. I think it should be pretty obvious. Like Nick is super smart, super funny, and Piers is just like playing it so safe. And one thing of substance that I think that Nick is like actually like good at talking about, like in comparison to a lot of conservatives who talk about Israel and stuff, Nick talks about the international kind of like movement where, for example, I won't spend too much time on it, but Trump, DeSantis, Democrats, like all of them are passing this International Holocaust Remembrance Alliance definition of anti-Semitism. It's called the IHRA definition. And one of them says that you're not allowed to say Americans of this ethnicity and this religion have dual loyalty. I'm not saying everybody does because it's not true and it's not fair. Just like every Mexican or every Chinese man, like everyone doesn't have dual loyalty to Mexico or China. But when it comes to Jewish, there are so many organizations that are like global Jewish organizations, like the World Jewish Congress. How do you talk about that without getting in trouble? It's like there's a World Congress for one race and one religion, but if I point to it, then I'm an anti-Semite. I can't say that they're globally see themselves almost as an international nation of an ethnic group, but they do that. Not everybody, but it's like, so I feel like Nick is very he's very good at explaining that, where I think a lot of people that are critics of Israel, like they don't understand that. Like and I'm not trying to take shots at anybody else, but they'll be like, oh, it's not about race, it's about this. And it's like, well, to you, it's not about race. And maybe to me, it's not like, but I understand what you're saying, but it's not a good analysis. Like if you just look at this sort of stuff and you say like, oh, they're just doing this in this country and that. Yes, but also there's dozens of international organizations that lobby for the international rights of their people. But when you mention that they're doing it, they say that you're hateful, but also those groups basically make a living stopping you from doing what they're doing. So it's like it's a very deep, confusing issue to talk about. And I'm not saying he does the perfect job of it or anything, but I think most libertarians and conservatives, when it comes to this topic, not all, but a lot, they bury their heads in the sand and they just say Israel, 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 because that's like the easy thing to do is like, I just disagree with Israel. I agree. I mean, not always. I don't always disagree with them, but I'm just saying like, I get what you're saying, but it's the same thing as Piers. It's like, just because you don't want to talk about stuff, it doesn't make you a better person than me. It just makes you faker, dumber, or just more uneducated. And on that topic, I think a lot of people don't fully understand it because it's really confusing. You have a foreign nation who we give foreign aid to and we fight wars with. You have a religion and you have an ethnic group that isn't based off the religion, but the religion is based off the ethnicity. And even though there's a country there and speech laws being passed around the world, there's international organizations lobbying for those people, but not wanting you to talk about it. So it's like, it's even confusing when I talk about it now, but I think Nick explained that to Piers, and he like nobody ever has an answer for that. As far as the rest of the interview, obviously there were controversial parts, him bringing up this, him bringing up that. But my overall summary of it is like, there's a reason that 95% of the people who watch that interview are watching for Nick. And there's a reason that they probably like Nick more than Piers. Piers just plays it too safe. And my personal take for the last couple of years, I came to the conclusion that if you use the word racist, sexist, xenophobic, like let's say I had Nick on and I called him a sexist, or I had on someone else and I called him a racist, like it doesn't matter if they're left wing or right wing. That word basically just means I'm a better person than you. You're a bad person, but I don't even have to really explain why you're a bad person. I'm just going to let everybody know that I'm a better person. So if you can't explain how someone is racist or sexist without explaining like the dynamics of gender, then you're probably just an idiot. And Piers Morgan's an idiot. Like, you know, he's talking about sexism and stuff, and he's saying, well, you're a Catholic. Bro, read the Bible. The Bible is sexist in modern day terms because men and women are not exactly the same. And not understanding that men and women are different is the same thing as like allowing a biologically born man to beat the crap out of a woman in swimming or volleyball. It doesn't seem like it's the same, but it all roots from the same tree, where there's a reason the Bible says what it says. It's not sexist. It's not xenophobic or whatever. It's just the reality of like human nature. And we've ignored that for the last 50, 60 years. People like Piers Morgan will say, I'm not a seventh wave feminist. I'm a sixth wave feminist. I'm not a fifth wave feminist. I'm a fourth wave feminist. Well, it's all coming from the same place. And you can't just call somebody a misogynist without understanding the dynamics between men and women. Women mostly want a man to be strong, to protect them. They want somebody that's going to dominate them. They want somebody that, you know, will play their role while they play their role. Like, it doesn't make you a good person to be a total beta male. Beta males are the type to be friends with a woman for 5 years, just trying to get through the friend zone, where an alpha male will just tell the woman, like, listen, I find you very attractive. I don't know that we could be friends because I'll probably want to, you know, do stuff with you. It's like, that's what an alpha would say, or they just say nothing. A beta male's like, let me carry your tampons. Hey, can I go get your tampons from Safeway real quick for you? It's like, the woman knows that you just want to bang her, Piers. You know what I'm saying? Like, you know, hypothetically, you're not nicer than someone like me. You're just like faker. You're trying to take the nice guy route to get something that you want, where like guys that aren't betas don't do that. So the whole conversation, even though it was about 10 different topics, it basically comes down to like a man who just uses isms to try to make someone else look bad, and then somebody in their 20s that just doesn't give a shit. So they're going to come off more authentic 10 times out of 10 for that reason. Now, to blend the two stories together, what I find interesting in this industry and why I try to stay out of drama is I try to take the great from different people and just leave the rest alone. Like with Nick, there's a lot of things that I don't agree with him on. I wouldn't say a lot, but if definitely more than like 3. But then there's a lot of things that I think he's right on. It doesn't mean I'm him. It doesn't mean I have to absorb every mistake or not mistake he's made. Like, I'm responsible for what I do. He's responsible for what he does. But it's like you have all these beefs where it's like, you know, Candace and Nick are beefing. You would think they wouldn't, but they are. You know, Candace says stuff about Nick. Nick doesn't like the investigation she's doing. Milo says Nick's gay. There's all this like drama constantly going on. Tucker and Nick were beefing at some point. And me personally, I don't know, unless I'm like fully inspired to like really not like somebody, I definitely think that Tucker, Nick, and Candace all bring something to the table. So I don't feel like, I don't feel like fighting with any of them, to be honest. It doesn't seem necessary. Same with Milo. I mean, say what you want about Milo, but he's very talented. And I think out of the original 2016 conservatives who were backing Trump, Milo is the most intelligent, funny, likable. Like, he's a star. So, it's like, even if you go back and watch his old interviews when Trump won, they were better than like all these other losers in politics. Like, oh, blah, blah, blah. It's like Milo was just having fun, making jokes. Like, he was clearly a standout then, and even now, regardless of what direction he wants to go. So, everybody always fights with each other, and I pick and choose when I talk about it, because it doesn't make sense to me to like argue with somebody on Twitter at this stage of my life. However, that's what people are doing. So I guess, I'll talk about it. And before I play these clips of Erika, I want to say a few things real quick beforehand. The first thing is, people like the drama and the controversy more than they like news reporting. And I'm not complaining about it. It doesn't bother me. It's just the reality of human nature. Like, if I were to go live today and say, hey, let's talk about Trump lying about Venezuela or just the gold card story, I'd have half the audience that I have now if everybody was just talking. So there's something going on. I think it's probably always happened. It's always been a thing in media, but streamers and political commentators, the worlds are kind of merging where the streamer like a Sneeko or like a iShowSpeed or like a Kai Cenat, who all the young kids are watching, their whole life is the reality show. Like the stream is, I'm going to go live for 10 hours and my life is so interesting. You're going to want to watch it. And to be honest, it's more interesting to kids than political commentary. So psychologically, or even marketing wise, what Candace is doing, and in some cases what Nick is doing, it's kind of revolutionizing political commentary because it's creating, they are the story. It's not like they need a story in politics to get views. They are the story. Nick going on Piers, he's the cash cow. Candace talking every day, she's the cash cow. So you get what I'm saying? It's like people don't realize what's happening, but the industry is changing, and it's almost like this is more interesting than people talking about Venezuelan drug boats. With that being said, I do think that the Charlie Kirk murder thing, like it's going to get views regardless of who's talking about it. I understand that Candace is talking about it every day, and her critics will say, well, Candace is making a lot of money talking about it. Sure, that's definitely true. But it's just the perfect, like, it's the perfect murder mystery where you have Charlie Kirk, who is probably one of the most famous people in the world. He probably would have been the president one day. He was one of the most powerful Republicans from 30 to 40. He was definitely like the most connected Republican that I know, that was basically like tag team with the government, essentially. Like he was locked in with the Trump administration. And then he gets murdered live in front of thousands of people, and they only have footage of somebody jumping off the roof. You know, like the whole thing is weird. So it's gonna get views. I obviously it's unfortunate, but you know, Charlie was JFK level famous. I mean, he wasn't JFK, but he probably would have been president. Since JFK, I would say it's like the highest profile political assassination of our time. And you know, his whole adulthood was stolen from him. So I don't know. Like people have to be honest about it, even if you don't like what conspiracy theorists are saying. Do you think no one's going to talk about it? Everyone's just going to move past it? Like it's not going to happen. If it weren't Candace, everyone else would be talking about it. It's just she's the most famous person talking about it. So I just see both sides acting really weird, and I don't relate enough to what anyone's doing to piggyback on what they're doing, because I just think everybody's acting really weird. Let me start with Turning Point USA and Erika Kirk. With Erika, when she first came out and like, you know, the thing first happened, the assassination first happened, and there were all these events, I wasn't really watching them. And people are like, why aren't you watching her talk at the stadium, this and that? And really, I don't know if I ever talked about it publicly, but I was thinking to myself, I don't want to watch it because I know I'm going to find something wrong with it and I'm going to sound like a dick. And I don't want to do that right now. I want to be patient out of respect, because something, even at the beginning, I'm not saying they're wrong for doing it. I know Charlie liked attention and he liked events and he liked fireworks, but there's something kind of weird about your husband dying and then a bunch of like, you know, pyrotechnics going off behind you. Like it's just weird. And everybody that isn't like a fan of Charlie thinks it's weird. Like everybody outside of politics, it was going viral. They were saying it looked like WWE. I'm not saying you can't do that. I'm not saying that makes you guilty. Obviously, I'm not even coming close to saying that. I'm just saying, like, if I were your PR person, I would be like, maybe tone down the pyrotechnics a week after. Like it was weird to me the whole time. And I didn't want to talk about it at all because I didn't want to sound like this a week after Charlie got killed. But it's like, I can't watch this because I know if I watch it, it's going to be weird. And then I'm going to want to say it's weird. And then everyone's going to hate me. But not that I care that people hate me, but I think it's nice to give it a month or two and, you know, let the dust settle before you start like saying stuff. So I always just was like, it's a little strange. That doesn't mean anybody's guilty. I'm just saying PR wise, it's not what appeals to me. With that being said, I think the town hall with Barry Weiss is also really weird. I'm not saying that means Erika did anything wrong. Just to me, think about a town hall. Who does town halls? Trump, DeSantis, Kamala. I've never seen, and maybe I'm wrong, but I've never seen anybody besides a politician running for office do a town hall. So if you're like everywhere on television and you're doing a town hall with Barry Weiss on CBS when you're a widow, I've never seen a widow do a town hall. I've never even seen a normal civilian do a town hall, or even a political person do a town hall. It's always been politicians. So it's like, it's not up to me, but now that it's a public thing, you're on television all the time. You're doing town halls with Barry Weiss on CBS. It's just a little too much. I'm not saying you can't do it. I'm not saying you're wrong for doing it, but I'm also not wrong for having an opinion about somebody that's in front of my face 1,000 times a week because they want to do every single show. That's just how I feel. If you want to do a town hall as a widow, you can do it. I'm not saying that makes you a bad person. I'm not saying it makes you complicit. I would never say that. I don't think she is, but I just think PR wise, it's like too much. You're everywhere all the time doing town halls like you're Donald Trump. It's like overexposure. With that being said, I didn't agree with everything Turning Point did when Charlie was alive. I was definitely a critic of their, what I perceived as not willing to call out Trump, not willing to call out socialism when Trump did it, and not willing to call out the Israeli speech laws that mysteriously nobody wants to talk about. With that being said, when it comes to Turning Point, I know a few people that work there and do shows there and stuff, like smaller stuff, investigation stuff, whatever. Like, I know some people who work at Turning Point. Besides them, I didn't know any of these people before. It was like, to me, Turning Point was Charlie Kirk, and everybody else didn't even exist. Like Charlie, and I'm not saying this to be rude, but Charlie was as important to Turning Point as James O'Keefe was to Project Veritas, right? When Project Veritas wanted to part way with James O'Keefe, whether they were right or wrong for doing it, James O'Keefe is Project Veritas. You can still do it, but he's, doing it without him just seems wrong. With Turning Point, obviously they can't bring Charlie back from the dead, but he was Turning Point. Nobody was more important to an organization than James was to Project Veritas and Charlie was to Turning Point. So now that Charlie died, once again, I'm not saying this makes anyone complicit or a bad person, but now all these people are getting famous that nobody really cared about. And I'm not saying nobody knew who they were, but they weren't on my radar. People like the PR guy, the Colbert guy, the Tyler Boyers guy, all these sort of people, it's like now they're stepping into a bigger arena, bigger spotlight, more attention because their CEO was murdered, right? Doesn't mean they're bad people. Doesn't mean I'm saying they're complicit. I'm going to say that 50 times because I'm not trying to get taken out of context, because that's not what I mean. I'm just talking about strictly PR wise. I only sort of cared about what Charlie said when Charlie was there. Now that he's not there, it's almost like I'm being forced to care what these people have to say or think. You're only on the level you're at now because Charlie's not here. Nobody really cared that much about what you said when Charlie was here. So regardless of who's saying what and how much you don't like them, it's like other people got there based on their own trajectory, and you're being elevated into the spotlight after the assassination. Doesn't mean you did anything. Doesn't mean you're wrong. It's just you're now playing in the big boy arena with all of the top influencers, and all of these people are just not that likable, not that interesting, not that honest. There's a way to handle it. Say, I don't like what Candace is doing. Say that people are going too far and still come across as authentic. I don't really see that happening from the Turning Point crowd. So it creates this weird dynamic where Candace is doing stuff. They don't like it, but the way they're going about it also is not appealing to people. So then people either just disagree with both sides or they tune into Candace because I'll talk about it a little more. It's just the Turning Point side. There's not really, I don't like the way they're handling it. And when I say that, I have to say this again. I'm sorry that this is coming across annoying. I don't think that they're complicit. I'm not saying that they are. That's not what I'm saying. What I am saying is they're handling it how they want to handle it, and I don't have to think they're doing a great job. I don't think Trump's doing a good job. I don't think the GOP is doing a good job. Do I have to believe Turning Point's doing a great job now for the rest of my life because of what happened? I don't. I think it's too much overexposure. I think these people are putting themselves in the spotlight way too much. I think they should create their own shows. The Charlie Kirk show is about Charlie Kirk. How long are you going to do that show? Make your own show. Make people care about your show. But if you step into the Charlie Kirk show when Charlie Kirk's not there, your whole life is going to have to be debating Candace, and you're not doing a good job of it. So at a certain point, you have to fall back, not just agree with everything she says, but create your own legacy. You can't just sit in the shadows of what Charlie did for 5 years. It's not working. And with Erika, God bless her family, God bless her soul. I feel horrible for her, but I've never seen anybody do a town hall outside of a politician. She's everywhere all the time. And if you're everywhere all the time, it's hard to like not have an opinion about it, you know? Kash Patel's girlfriend, people say a lot of stuff about, you know, some I think is valid. Other, I think people are reaching and being a little rude. But at the same time, she also goes on television all the time in Fox News. Like I'm not saying that justifies people being wrong or lying or whatever, but if you're going on television like 7 times a week, now you're a public figure. Now you're saying stuff. Now you're talking about stuff. I don't know. It's like I feel like it's a weird. You can't just use it as a shield forever if you want to be like a political analyst. If I was on TV 7 times a week saying 20 different things and then people disagreed with me and I'm like, whoa, why are you talking about me? It's like, you don't have to be on television all the time. You don't have to do a 15 stop tour. Like, you don't have to do a town hall like you're Ron DeSantis. Like, that's unprecedented. I've never seen anyone outside of politics do a town hall, let alone a grieving widow doing a town hall with Barry Weiss on CBS after Larry Ellison's son just bought it out. It's just like a little too much, in my opinion. And this is coming from someone who's been very respectful, very thoughtful, has not talked about it at all. These are just my thoughts, not to be rude, not to be mean. It's just, that's my PR opinion, is just too much. And if you want to say, well, Charlie liked working a lot, so I want to work a lot and push it all forward, that is totally understandable, right? It's your decision, not mine. But, you know, the amount of people talking about what you're doing is going to increase by 20% or 20 times if you talk 20 times as much versus if you know, it's just like a lot of exposure. That's just my opinion. And I think just like we all have to be self-aware, right? I have to be self-aware and be the best version of myself. I think Candace should be very aware of what she's doing and be very careful of what she says about who, because at the end of the day, you want to be accurate. You definitely don't want to, you know, overdo it or overreach when you have a lot of power in people's things. And I think that Turning Point needs to be self-aware, especially like the Colbert type people. They need to be self-aware that they're really, really famous now because Charlie died. Like, they're not really, really famous now because they earned their way in the podcast circuit. They're not really, really famous because everybody really liked them so much that they became popular. Like, regardless of what you think about Candace, she got really famous. I mean, she definitely, you know, worked with organizations at certain points, but like Candace became a star because she became a star. These people are in the spotlight because their CEO died and now they have all this attention. I'm not saying it makes them bad people. I'm just saying, like, be self-aware. It's kind of like if the entire roster of the Los Angeles Lakers gets injured and now you're a starter and you want to act like you're Wilt Chamberlain reincarnated. Not really. You're only there because everyone else, you know, that's like the analogy that I'm thinking of in my head is like, these people just have no self-awareness. And I get that they're defending their CEO. I get that they don't like what Candace is saying. And I think that they're justified in a lot of ways of disagreeing with some of the theories that everyone's saying, because everyone's saying every theory. So people think he's alive. People think it came from the left, from the right, from up, from down. Everyone's saying everything on the internet. I'm not saying Turning Point can't disagree. I'm not saying they can't defend themselves. And I'm not saying they can't not like what Candace is doing, but just have some self-awareness that, like, you're not really the guy. You know what I'm saying? Like, you know, if Charlie was still alive, probably nobody would even be thinking about you. Nobody would want to listen to you. Nobody would want to tune into your podcast. Nobody's asking for your opinion. Am I wrong? Or is that the reality of the situation? So I think, you know, this is the problem with politics, is most people in politics are like sociopaths and narcissists. So there's not a lot of self-awareness on all sides. And I think that's the issue here. Is like, you have everybody on every side is just barreling forward with what they want to talk about and what they want to do and what they think is right. And nobody has any self-awareness. So it's creating all of these dramas and controversies that are so unnecessary because nobody wants to give an inch. And like I said, it's like, if I said this probably 2 months ago before Candace's stuff, even, you know, like, she's now probably had like 40 episodes since I've said this, or 30 episodes. But I said this 2 months ago, and this still rings true. It's like, if you don't like how she's doing it, understandable. If you don't agree with what she's doing, if you think she's reaching, if you think she's being too sloppy with it, you're allowed to feel that way. But what are the alternatives if it's just like her or Nick Fuentes saying he just basically agrees with the official FBI narrative. It's her or Turning Point, a bunch of people that just like became famous a month or two ago, now just telling her to shut up. Like people, everybody that seems to be on like the Turning Point side, they're just like, just believe the FBI narrative. Is there any room for someone like myself? And I'm not like, once again, this is just how I feel. I'm not trying to be rude to anybody, but I don't see it either way. You know what I'm saying? Like, I don't believe the FBI. I think Turning Point's doing a bad job. And to be honest, I'm not really tuning into Candace's show. It's not appealing to me per se. So it's, you know, but everybody that seems like they're calling her out is just doing a really bad job of it. And also just like Tim Pool, he's like screaming. It's like, relax. Like, I don't know. I can't stand Tim Pool. I think he's a phony. I think he's totally fake. He's totally corny. So it's like, are these my options? It's like Tim Pool or Candace. I have to pick. You're saying I have to pick one, right? Not, I fully agree with them. You want me to pick Tim Pool or Candace? I would pick Candace. Okay. Turning Point or Candace? You mean the people in Turning Point that I didn't even know who they were 2 months ago that are just talking all the time and I still don't care what they have to say? Or Candace? You really like the FBI or Candace? Like, these are the decisions that they're making people choose. And they're like, Graham Allen's like, if you stand with Candace, you're my enemy. I wouldn't say I'm standing with Candace because, like I said, and I'm not trying to, you know, bother Candace. I know her, but it's just like, I don't see everything eye to eye how she sees it. But once again, if you say Graham Allen or Candace, dude, Graham Allen is an idiot. The dude pushes the most low IQ Trump slop information. He's brainwashed millions of boomers. Graham Allen is one of the dumbest content creators with one of the stupidest algorithms. Like, it's just like the lowest IQ, low hanging fruit, Republic slop, Trump slop. I have to pick Graham Allen or Candace. Guess I'm going to have to pick Candace again. I wouldn't say I'm standing right next to her, but it's just like, I think she's more interesting, more intelligent, and there's more value in what she says over the last 3 years than what Graham Allen says. I can't think of a single thing that he said that has any value. So they did the same thing to me in 2019. You're either Charlie Kirk and Ben Shapiro or Nick Fuentes. I'm not either of them. I'm just not them. Just like I don't want them to be me, but why do I have to be them? Because they're getting like, so then it's like, I'm not Nick Fuentes, but when he's talking to Charlie and Ben, he's making more sense than Charlie and Ben. So now I get blacklisted for 6 years because I said that Nick would beat them in a debate. I meant it, and I still mean it's like, isn't it obvious now that like they don't have anything for him? So I find it, you know, that's my, not that anyone cares what I have to say, but that's like my, you know, friendly thoughts to the Turning Point staff and stuff. I don't know. I just think they're doing a bad job, and you gotta be a little more reasonable if you want people to believe you. Like, if I were Turning Point, it would be like, listen, I understand this, but it's like, I don't know. They're just not doing it for me. Every clip I see of them, I'm just like, yeah, I see why people are not tuning into it. Let me play a few clips real quick of Erika basically telling Candace Owens to stop. And this is interesting because, you know, Candace did say that she would stop if her husband or Erika told her to stop, but I highly doubt that it's going to stop now. So, I mean, and I'm not saying it should stop. But what I would say is I do wish that, like, at some point they would have a conversation. And personally, I think that Turning Point should just let Candace like live stream it. I don't see why she has to fly to the studio to talk to them. Like, if they really want to talk to her that bad, why can't they just live stream it? And with Erika, I understand, like, no one has to talk to Candace, but clearly they're very bothered by what she's doing. So it's like, if you can't beat her, and it doesn't seem like they can, you might as well try to have a conversation in person and get on some sort of a same page. And if not, it doesn't seem like your trajectory is going to, you know, out reach her trajectory. So I think the smartest thing to do would be have a live stream with Candace, not try to like make her fly to where you are. Like, just do a live stream. But here's 2 clips I saw where she basically told Candace to stop talking.
The podcaster Candace Owens, okay? At one time, a friend of Charlie's, at one time, an employee of Turning Point. She has been one of the main peddlers of these conspiracies, and she is making a huge amount of money on it. She is building her business off of these lies.
All right, let's look at the next clip.
What do you want to say to her and the other people that are putting these lies out into the world right now?
Stop. That's it. That's all I have to say. Stop.
And then here's a clip of Candace probably like a month or two ago when everyone was trying to get her to stop at first. She said, the only people that could stop me are my husband or Erika.
No one, and I mean absolutely no one, outside of my husband and Erika Kirk has the power to shut me up right now. That's it.
I don't think Candace is going to stop based on, I just don't think it's going to happen. This is where it gets tricky for me because I've never met Erika Kirk. I met Charlie one time, but I wouldn't even say we met. It was like 10 years ago and we like took a picture together or something at an event. Like he didn't even talk to me. So it's like, I don't know Charlie. I've never met Erika. Candace does know Charlie, right? She did know Charlie. She's met Erika. She knew who Erika was. So with Candace, I know at the beginning, like in the first month, Candace was suggesting on her show, because I watched it for the first month, she was suggesting that Erika is like, I don't want to put words in Candace's mouth, but from what I was listening to her, she was like, I'm glad Erika's getting the organization, not all these other Turning Point people. Like Erika's basically one of the good guys, like that's what it felt like Candace was saying. She was glad, she liked Erika. She would stop talking if Erika told her to. And, Erika, it's better that Erika gets the organization than some other like snake. Once again, at the time, I've never met Erika or Charlie, but I guess I would say I never fully felt that way because once again, I'm not trying to overjudge a widow or anything, but my intuition, just looking at stuff, I was like, I don't know. I don't know who she is. I don't know what her agenda is. I don't know how close, I don't know. So it's a different sort of ball game, I guess, for Candace. Cause at first Candace said, I'll stop talking if she tells me to, like, I like her. Now it's more like she probably won't stop talking and she doesn't trust Erika. So that's kind of already like, how can I really have an opinion on that? What, I guess the question would be like, what made Candace think Erika was the right choice a couple months ago? And now, like, was she so different over the last month or two that it changed? My personal guess would be, and this is a tough way to feel because I'm not a paranoid person, but there's very few people I trust in this industry. And I don't know. I never really trusted her. And I can't speak for other people because it's like with Candace, when she worked at PragerU, I never trusted PragerU and I really knew what they were about. When she worked at Daily Wire, I didn't trust Daily Wire and I knew what they were about. I never met Erika, but she trusts her now. So I don't know, like where, maybe this is like people are figuring it out on the go, but I guess I just don't really trust, definitely don't trust people I don't know. But when I know that there's organizations, like I don't really trust Turning Point. It's not like I've gone to their events, but it's not like, oh, I really trust them. It's like, not really. So I'll never like make a claim or say that I trust somebody because I don't. There's like 5 people that I probably trust, 10 people max or something in this industry. And the rest, I just know not to trust them whatsoever. So I don't, that's a personal thing between those two. They know each other. Maybe they can talk about it. Maybe they can argue about it. But if it comes to like a female cat fight, it just seems like Candace is going to win against Erika. That's just the way it seems like to me. So I don't know where they go with this, but I think Candace is like a hard person to beat, With that being said, once again, I think there needs to be a level of self-awareness on all sides. And this is not in any way, shape, or form meant to be disrespectful. It's just the reality. Even if you think Candace is whatever, she's been famous for a long time. And clearly, like, she's a massive star, right? Say what you want. She's a star. She would be famous no matter where she was. Yes, she worked at different organizations, but I truly believe that Candace has like an it factor where she's going to be a star. Like, let's look at 2 examples and you could tell like certain people can make it anywhere. If you look at Tucker, Tucker is massive. He's probably just as famous, if not more famous, even after Fox News. Where's Bill O'Reilly? Bill O'Reilly got fired. Why is Bill O'Reilly completely irrelevant? Well, Tucker has the it factor. He's a star. He's going to be one of the most important people, regardless of where he is. Bill O'Reilly is not. It's the same with Candace. Like, she's a star. So with Erika, it doesn't mean she's wrong. I'm just looking at it from a game theory perspective. Like, before Charlie was assassinated, Erika was well known amongst Turning Point women and people that knew about Charlie's relationship and kids and like those type of things. But as far as like the rest of the country and the rest of the Republican movement, I'm going to be honest, I didn't know anything about her, even though I'm online every day looking at conservative content. It doesn't mean anything. It's just the game theory reality of the situation. She's become 100 times or 1,000 times more famous now that Charlie's died. It doesn't mean she can't use that to do stuff. It's just like the self-awareness of, you're really big now because of that. She was already big. So it's like a lot of these people are taking their newfound attention and they're thinking like they're on the level of certain people, like, oh, I'm as big as Tucker now because of this. But for different reasons, though. Like, you didn't necessarily earn all of that attention. It's just like you just have it now because of a crazy event. It doesn't mean people like you or trust you that much. So I think there's an element of that people are just not thinking of. And I don't know. I guess if I were them and I were trying to disagree with Candace, I would have to concede that not everything she's saying is wrong, which none of them seem to be able to do. They're all like, everything she said is a conspiracy theory. Not everything. She got the text release that said that Charlie was like turning his stances 2 days before he died. And then Tyler Colbert said that it was right. So, like if you want people to believe you, you have to lead with like, hey, I think Candace is going too far on these topics, but she did also do some things that are very impressive and I think somewhat helpful, or, they can't do that though. They're trying to say everything is a conspiracy theory. Everything she says is wrong. And it's not appealing to people because most people don't trust the FBI after COVID, after lockdowns, after the last 50 years, 60 years of America, after I would say the Epstein release, the Binder Gate and all that weird stuff. So, I just think the TPUSA, it's not that they can't challenge Candace, but if you're going to challenge Candace, you have to come correct or else you're just going to lose essentially because you're not on the level. And they're not, I haven't seen any of these people saying well, this part of what she's saying is pretty right. And this part of what she's saying is pretty on point. But then even Nick, right? I think there's some things that Nick does better than Candace. But on this sort of thing, Nick's not saying, well, Candace did this, this, and this that's right, but I think she's reaching way too much and she's totally off base on these stuff. To me, that would make more sense than him just saying, oh, it's all wrong. And, the official narrative, it makes sense. It's does it though? I mean, maybe it makes sense to you. It doesn't to me. So that's just where I am personally. And I'm trying not to bother anybody because I'm not trying to start any fights, but that's just where I'm at personally. I don't believe the official narrative. Jack Pasabic tweeting every day that it's Tyler Robinson, that's not doing it for me. I don't even watch Candace's show over the last month. I'll see clips, but I think she's makes a lot of good points. But on some cases, she's kind of just stumbling forward and just saying a lot of stuff. And personally, it's not that appealing to me. But I don't know. She's definitely found some stuff. So that's all I could really say. I can't find anybody that disagrees with Candace that won't admit that she's done some things, and so then they just completely it's either you're Candace Owens or you're Jack Pasabic. You're Candace Owens or you're the FBI. You're Candace Owens or you agree that it was that bullet in Tyler Robinson. I'm not really on either. And that's not me playing the fence. I don't fit into boxes. That's who I am. You're Trump or you're Kamala. I'm neither. I vote Republican. Or I did in the past. Now it's getting really hard to because they're such scumbags. But I don't agree with what Trump's doing. I think Mike Johnson's a shill, but then Democrats are worse. why do I have to like join a side or pick a team? And if you want to make everybody pick teams, you got to do better than Jack Pacebic screaming Tyler Robinson and like Graham Allen saying, if you're against me, then you're my enemy. It's like, okay, all right, dude. Yeah, that's like, what are you saying? Is there something you're doing that's like impressive? Because I haven't seen it in 6 years, but it's like and then like Tim Pool like spurgs out, and Tim Pool spurgs out and says like she's responsible for the midterms, and it's like that doesn't even make any sense. Someone said Anomaly feels beholden to be nice to Candace. Since I know Candace, I would say I'm probably trying to be nicer and more respectful, like than maybe if I had never met her. And it's honestly, you're probably right, and I'm not gonna lie about it. But I don't know that I would be like mean if I didn't know her. But it is a different psychological thing that I do know her. I've been on her show. She's been on my show. We've known each other for a minute now. But this is how I feel. Like I'm just because of that. Like I don't want to bother Candace. She's the last person I would want mad at me. But I don't, like I said, I think she's doing some good things. I don't think anybody's going to stop her. My opinion doesn't matter. And when it's all said and done, time will tell. If in 2 months she finds some massive bombshell, then what does my opinion matter? I don't have such a big ego that I think my opinion matters. But as far as what I consume, I'm sure there's time where she's watched my show, and I'm sure there's time where she just doesn't watch my show, and vice versa. I've never, there's been lots of times where I haven't watched her show, but it doesn't mean anything. It's just there's a lot of content out there. So I guess the first week of her show, 2 weeks, it was definitely like really interesting to me. And then I just felt like the style of it just wasn't appealing to me because it was a little more loose and a little more like, eh. And then it kind of lost me personally. But that's, I could be honest about it either way, whether I knew her or not. Like that's just the reality of it. But then the other side isn't making any sense. So it's, I don't know how else to talk about it besides that. I'm not trying to stop her. I'm not saying she'll never get anywhere. I'm certainly not saying she didn't do anything, because amongst everything she's been doing, there have been a few things that have been very big. Let's start with the bullet size. And I don't know who cares about this or not, but let's just say like if Candace and people, let's just give her credit because I think she was like the leader of like saying stuff. If she never did that, they never would have said Tyler Colvert or whatever, never would have said, hey, it was this bullet. So, you know what I'm saying? It's like that never would have came out, I don't think. And to me, that's a huge part of it. Like I don't think they would have told us that without people asking questions. So, I think that was a net positive for people. Unfortunately, we just can't trust the entire normal investigation. Like they don't tell us the truth until we like ask questions, and then they're like, here, take this. So there's been, and the text messages were the biggest bombshell of the whole thing. So, I guess everyone's responsible for what they say or do, but I think there's a lot there that has been very helpful. And as far as the rest of it, time will tell. Time will tell what happens, but I don't feel it's like when Nick and Candace fight and Tucker fights, I'm not trying to fight with any of them. I've never met Nick. I've never met Tucker, but even though I don't know them, I don't want to fight with them. You know what I'm saying? Like you could say, oh, well, it's because you know Candace. Sure. Probably there's an element of that. But at the same time, I've never met Nick. I've never met Tucker. I don't want to fight with them either. I don't see the value of it. I think Tucker does some things better than Nick. I think Nick does some things better than Tucker. I think Candace does some things better than all of them. And I think Nick does some things better. Like I see the value in all of them. And I don't feel inspired to like insert myself in a beef. Well, it's me versus her. I got enough things to do. If I feel inspired to do that, there's probably a big reason. But if not, it's just how I feel. Did I look at the Lieutenant Governor GOP primary candidate for Texas 2026? Thanks for the super chat. Not fully, but I should because what's his name? Like Ken Paxton and Ted Cruz, they just keep tweeting about anti-Semitism every day. It's like, do you guys work for Israel or America? And then I read what they're tweeting about. They're like, there's anti-Semitism at the school. So then I read the article and it says, there's perceived anti-Semitism in Israel events at the school. And it's like, does our government just work for Israel and one race and one religion? It's like embarrassing. So, because Israel is an ethno state, now if you disagree with that ethno state, you're a bad person. It's like, imagine saying if you didn't agree with like Ukrainians, you hated Ukrainians. If you didn't, all of Europe is being stripped of their identity. They're being replaced and they're being outbred. Yet you can talk about any of them and nobody bothers you. But Israel, the one country that's not doing that, that's probably going to thrive in 50 years while all of Europe mysteriously just falls apart. Now you're racist if you disagree with them because of all that. It's like, that's the GOP. That's all they do all the time. So, similar to, this is a good segue to talk about the Trump stuff. Similar to the left versus the right narrative, it's not just because I know people that I like to be careful about what I do and what I say. There's a few reasons, right? Spiritually, I can't speak for everyone else because I think certain people have to be different. Like if you play on a team, everyone can't be as fast or as slow or as tall or as aggressive. Teamwork makes the dream work. I know myself, like I don't try to be disrespectful to anyone else because only they know what they're supposed to do. Maybe they're supposed to be a little crazier than me. Maybe they're supposed to wild out. Only God knows. I don't know. But I do know myself, and I do know I feel good when I'm super accurate. I feel good when I'm honest. I feel the best when I have grace versus when I lack grace. So I try to implement that in my live streams. Also, with that being said, I would say that I just don't think choosing sides works. And I'm not even talking about Erika, Nick, and Candace. I'm just talking about in politics. For 7-8 years, people tried to tell me it's Trump versus the left, it's Turning Point versus the libtards. And I really I think it's a trap. I think it's a trap to choose a side. Not that one's not better than the other, but then there's so many narratives and so many things you could say, but they're trying to put you in a box. So then if I talk about these speech laws or I call out the GOP, now they think I'm a liberal. You know what I'm saying? If I question like Turning Point at all for the next 5 years, they're going to say I'm Candace Owens. If I question the FBI, they're going to say it's a conspiracy theory. So it's like, it breeds this, like you're either this or this. And it doesn't, like some people just want to pick a side, but it doesn't make sense to me in any topic because usually the sides are almost like not what I'm thinking, and I think picking sides, especially when it comes to left and right, has led to the collapse of the GOP in the midterms because they're not delivering. They seem like they work for Israel more than America, and they have no self-awareness whatsoever about it. And now it's starting to become popular that people are calling this out. But for 6 years, it was like this orchestrated, don't talk about our party, talk about the left. And I never felt that way from 2019 until now. So, with Nick and all that stuff, why do I have to be Nick? I have to be a super fan or a hater? It doesn't make sense to me. Like, I'm not a super fan of Nick. I'm not a groiper, but I'm also not Piers Morgan. Like, I think he's funny. Other times I think he's not funny. Sometimes I think he's really funny. Sometimes I think he's right. Sometimes I think he's wrong. Like, why is that a controversial opinion? Then people say, oh, you're just playing the fence. I do my own shows. I have millions of followers. I have billions of views. Why do I have to be someone that I'm not? I'm not asking them to be me. I'm not demanding that Erika Kirk acts like me or Candace acts like me or Nick's. We're not the same people. And that's the beautiful thing about life. We all have things that we know make sense to us. And with that being said, I think, let me read the super chat real quick, and then I'll hopefully not forget what I was about to say. Someone said, hey, Anomaly, thanks for your work on the global bug. Do you use DonorBox? If not, how could we support you without having to buy a beanie? I'm going to launch something else next year. I have a Patreon, but I barely use it. So I'm just going to close it down so people don't have to use it anymore. I'll figure out something next year, but I need to really fully pick something that I can deliver on, because when I have to like sporadically just do content every 2 weeks, it's become too choppy for me. So if you want to support, just I'm okay for now. I don't know. Buy yourself something nice for Christmas and support me next year. Someone said, is Anomalies a virgin? I'm not a virgin, but if I was, I feel like that would be I'd be a better Christian. But unfortunately or fortunately, regardless how you look at it, I'm not. But I don't know what that has to do with anything. Someone said, nah, that's you need assistance. I don't know what you're saying. I sound like Tim Pool now. I definitely don't sound like Tim Pool. That's the rudest thing you could say. I'm not Tim Pool. I'm not Erika Kirk. I don't trust Turning Point. I don't trust the FBI. I'm not Candace Owens. I'm not Nick Fuentes. I'm not Piers Morgan. I don't know what you want me to tell you. I've been posting videos since I was 19 years old. My personality is pretty much online, and it's changed because I was way dumber when I was in my 20s. So you know what I'm saying? So like I'm way out there. There's no hiding my personality. It's been publicized on my channel for decades. But someone said, dude, people act like we've got to agree with everything everyone does or says. Yeah, no, I mean, that's the internet though. But once again, it's not like I'm bothered by it, because you want to be at peace with the way the world is. Like, imagine if I sat here frustrated and was like, people like drama more than they like hearing about Venezuelan drug boats. So do I. I'd rather hear about drama than the Venezuelan drug boats. So it's like, I'm not fighting reality. I'm not fighting what is. I'm just commentating on it. So I think there's a lot of marketing and psychology into play. And it's the same thing with Trump and the GOP, which I do want to talk about. And then I'll read some comments and maybe remember what I was going to say before. Trump, he's essentially like a caricature of like Mr. Krabs meets like Derek Zoolander. Shout out to Owen Benjamin, who coined that. Owen was the one that said that Trump acts like Zoolander. And it's so accurate. If you listen to Trump and Zoolander, it's like, I'm really, really good looking. I'm really, really rich. He's literally Zoolander. And now he's acting like Mr. Krabs because like everything's about money to Trump. It's like gold cards for $1 million. He's doing tariffs and everyone's like, oh, he's getting all this money back for America. He ran up the debt $2 trillion. It's like, what's $1 million from a Howard Lutnick gold card going to do for Apple? Apple's going to be very happy. Who cares, bro? Like Tim Pool's going to be really happy. What's his name? Tim Cook. It's like everything Trump does now, he's like Mr. Krabs. It's like, I'm getting money. I sold the most Boeing jets in the world. I'm this, I'm that. And it's like, but we're trillions of dollars in debt. You're doing all this financial stuff for rich people, corporations, and random millionaires, but it's not even like taking a chunk out of our national debt. And then they're sending hundreds of millions of dollars to Ukraine and Israel again in this NDAA. Trump is lashing out at Rand Paul, Thomas Massie, Marjorie Taylor Greene. He's like a clown. And this is what I said at the beginning, but I want to kind of explain it a little more now. When a coach loses a team, there is no unity. The unity that we had, although it was mostly artificial, it was because Trump was perceived as a leader that people wanted to listen to. Even years after I stopped listening or trusting Trump, a lot of people that now agree with me would say, well, I'll give Trump a pass. Let's give Trump a pass. Let's see what he does. Let's see where he goes with this. Let's see this. Let's see that. And now everybody's realizing that Trump really isn't that guy. Like everybody's on the page that I was like 4 years ago. And now they're like, all right, Trump's not. So we don't have a leader. We don't have a quarterback. We don't have a coach. And there's two things going on. And this is why Nick and Candace, they're the leaders of this. But once again, even if you don't like, for whatever reason, one of them for any reason, you have to understand why it's happening. Let's just say you hate Nick, right? Or you love Nick, but let's just assume you just hate him and you're like, why is this happening? He's so bad. He's so this. Okay. The GOP and the Democrats, by the way, but the GOP has been kowtowing to Israel for a long time. They started doing it more and more and more. Trump takes hundreds of millions of dollars from donors that he thinks have dual loyalty, but then he passes a definition of anti-Semitism that says it's anti-Semitic to say what he says himself in America, where we're not supposed to have speech rules, right? So that alone is crazy. Besides the foreign aid, besides the wars, besides, him sending a foreign spy back on his donor's jet, Jonathan Pollard, pardoning the handler, there's a lot of stuff going on there. Nick Fuentes talked about it really early. And if you really want to know, Ron Paul talked about it decades ago, and other people talked about it as well that have been blacklisted. People like David Duke. And once again, I'm not saying you have to like everything he's ever done, obviously, but it's like, that's like, people don't know this, but if you go back, David was calling out Wolf Blitzer about being an AIPAC lobbyist like decades ago, and then you had Nick Fuentes who talked about it in 2016, and Ron Paul, who was obviously like a very chill, Ron Paul has like no controversies, but he talked about it in like 2010, 2011, 2012. So people weren't paying attention to the relationship between America and Israel and lobbyists. but it was happening. So this is what I think about anything. Opinions don't matter, reality matters. And if reality doesn't match the national opinion, eventually it'll catch up. You don't want to talk about the border being closed 30 years ago, you're going to talk about it now. You don't want to talk about lobbyists 20 years ago, you want to talk about it now. You don't want to talk about foreign aid 50 years ago, now you want to talk. So it like people will eventually slowly catch up to what the people were saying that were unpopular about it. And sometimes it takes somebody controversial with like a crazy resume to break down the barriers to just not care. And also maybe like, it's debatable how it happens, but maybe they make people look bad that do that. There's an element of both. Like Ron Paul probably wouldn't even hurt a fly, yet they told you Ron Paul was like the worst person in the world. It's like, if you guys can't even admit Ron Paul's a nice guy, I don't know what to tell you, because he's like the nicest person I've ever seen. So with Nick, the reason I'm saying all that, this was being shoved aside. In 2019, I've told this story to my audience. They're probably bored of it, so I'm going to brief it within 30 seconds. Nick was talking about the speech laws Republicans were passing. Charlie and Ben Shapiro weren't talking about him and were trying to like stop everybody from talking about him. And because I talked about it, they said, Anomaly's Nick Fuentes, he can't work anywhere. And they blacklisted me like they blacklisted Nick 6 years ago. So you have to understand with me too, I'm seeing all of this from a perspective, not of somebody watching a podcast, not of somebody listening to Erika Kirk and Turning Point or whatever. I'm coming from a perspective that I got blacklisted 6 years ago for talking about stuff that people just started talking about a year and two ago. Why it took people so long, I have no idea. What their motives are, that's for them to know. But I know that it was obvious to me 6 years ago. And when I had everything to lose, I wouldn't say I lost anything because I don't really care. I don't live in their reality. So it's like they're not going to beat me or take things from me. But, definitely doors will be closed. And Nick just so happened to be the leader of talking about that, whether he was elected or not. Like, Nick wasn't my leader. To be honest, Nick wasn't even the first person that brought that to my attention, that the speech laws. It was a content creator named Adam Green who was doing reports on the speech laws. That's how I found it. Wasn't even Nick. That's how I found that reporting, and it was true. So it's like, okay, am I supposed to ignore reality because the media told me that people, it's like, regardless of what Ben, Charlie, Adam, Nick, me, Candace, Erika says, the truth is the truth regardless. Like if Charlie could do a report that makes sense, then I'll pay attention to that too. Like I don't blacklist and block people out just because someone told me they're bad. If there's value to be had there and they teach me a lesson, it is what it is. So with that being said, everybody wants to know, well, why is Nick so popular? Why is this? Why is that? That topic was massively important, and people are starting to figure out about it, especially after the war broke out between Israel and Palestine. Regardless of what side you're on, regardless of how you think it worked out, that's just the reality. The war put a massive spotlight on Israel, and people started noticing this stuff a lot more. So that's why Nick is popular. That's why Nick is so likable to so many people that knew he was 6 years ahead of everybody or 10 years ahead of everybody. And even if you dislike Nick and don't want him to be there, in order to beat him, you have to be honest about it. You can't like just be deluded. I don't like him. I'm mad. I don't get it. Well, I just told you why. You know what I'm saying? So figure it out. And then the same thing with Candace. It's like, let's take it back before even the Charlie thing. Candace has been a star for a while. At first, she was, the girl that worked at the Republican organizations that was very witty, very smart, and knew how to sell the Republican narrative better than most Republicans. Then she became and I'm not saying this is all, but she disagreed with the BLM race narrative. She talked about childhood vaccines. Like she was always more interesting than most people. Even when she worked at Daily Wire, like she was way more interesting than the rest of them because she would talk about stuff like vaccines. She never was like Ben Shapiro. Oh my gosh, get vaccinated. It's like, she was never that. And then the Israel stuff started becoming a part of her narrative. So Candace amassed a huge following because she was someone on the inside that essentially got fired for waking up to and talking about the relationship between America and Israel, historical stuff, like in my opinion, I thought she was doing brilliant work. I didn't watch all her videos, but I thought like the debates she was having and stuff, it was just interesting. I don't know. I was like, dang, this is finally something interesting for me to watch on Daily Wire. And then she got fired. And then she went on for a year or so by herself talking about all this stuff. So with Candace's rise, it's not, if you want to analyze it as Candace just got famous off the Charlie Kirk stuff, it's not true. Did it help her get more views? Sure. But like she says, it also helped Turning Point make a lot of money. Everyone talking about a big story. The news is like this. If something big happens, everyone's going to get more views. That's just the reality of it. But if you want to be fair and honest about Candace's rise, if she wasn't talking about Charlie, she might not be getting 2 million views, but she's still getting 1.5 million. She was already like the biggest show on YouTube. Even before the Charlie thing, her videos were getting like millions of views. She's huge. So the reason she got huge even before the Charlie thing was because she was more honest than most people in Republican media. If you don't like her and want to beat her, you have to provide something. You can't just use Tyler Bowers and Tyler Colbert or whatever their names are, Blake Neff. It's not gonna beat her. It's just like, you're not even in her league. It's like a high school student trying to challenge like LeBron to one-on-one. Like, you're just not gonna win. So you move forward, and it's like, then she starts talking about the Charlie stuff, right? Did Turning Point make a lot of money off that? Absolutely. Did they fundraise a lot and expand a lot off that? Absolutely. Does that make them bad? No. Candace is doing same thing. She's getting more views too, but it's like, you can't work at Turning Point being like, you're using that to get more views. How many views and money did you raise as well? Like, if you're going to point, you got to be honest about it. And I think everybody that talks about that topic is benefiting off it. That's just the reality of it. With that being said, now let's get to the second layer of why Candace is popular right now. Besides the fact that she spoke about a topic that nobody wanted to talk about for a while, she's covering this as, I don't fully believe their investigation. I'm going to do my own. It's a bold thing to do, but most people don't trust the FBI. Most Republicans still don't trust the FBI, even though Kash Patel is there. So, she's providing something outside of Jack Posobiec saying Tyler Robinson did it every day and other people doing nothing. So once again, it doesn't mean you have to jump knee deep into someone's camp just because someone else isn't doing something. But the reality, I understand these things. I'm not just sitting there. Why is everyone watching her? Duh. Why don't people trust? I don't want to say anything about any widow ever. It feels bad. But she's doing a town hall like she's a politician with Barry Weiss. I've never seen any who does town halls on CBS? This is unprecedented. Like, maybe someone's done it, but who's done a town hall besides a politician? Do I think it's good PR for a grieving widow to do a town hall with Barry Weiss like a politician? No, but I'm not the PR person, right? I'm not the PR person who books her stuff, but I just have to agree with it. I don't, it doesn't make sense to me. Someone said with a super chat, I've been watching you for 10 years every episode. I think if you actually watch Candace's show, you would agree with at least 75%. You're getting a little lazy with researching as much as what you're talking about. Well, here's my thing. Thank you for the super chat. I don't disagree with you. I guarantee you if I watched every episode, I'd agree with at least 75%. But this is a personal preference, right? I don't want to be like, and this, it's not to compare, but it's just what I like to do. If you watch my entire kind of come up, right? Every video I've made, if you watch my COVID videos, you wouldn't come away with it thinking, oh, Anomaly's right about 70% of it. You would be like, that's an airtight news report. There's nothing wrong about that because Anomaly leaned into everything he knew and said what he didn't. That's just what appeals to me. And that's what I like to do. I 100% agree with you, but it's like, I don't want to watch something personally. And this is no disrespect, but I don't want to be like, I agree with 75% of it, 25% of it's a little bit of a reach. That stops appealing to me because then it just, it's not what I want to watch. I don't think I wouldn't, but everyone likes something else. Everybody has a different thing that they like to watch, that they believe, that they feel connected to. And then there's certain things for me that I don't feel like watching every day. It doesn't mean someone's wrong or bad. It's just, that's how it is. And, I would say this, not to compare it to that, because I don't think it's exactly the same or anything, but there's millions of people who watch a guy named X22 report and they're like, trust me, dude, he's right about this and that. And it's like, I think that guy's full of shit. But some people, they don't like to be in the driver's seat. They like to hear someone else tell them about something that they think and they said. And, that doesn't appeal to me. I think Candace is doing a 20 times better job than that guy. But you understand what I'm saying? Like, that's not, I don't know. I like, if something big enough happens, I don't need to watch it for 7 months or 6 months to see it. I'll see it on Twitter. Everybody will be talking about it. It'll be clear as day. Yeah, that's just my style. But it's creating sides and controversy and drama, and you got to do this and you got to do that. I don't have to do anything. I saw through Vivek Ramaswamy. Nobody else saw through him. I saw through the speech laws of 2019. Nobody saw that. I saw through COVID. A lot of people did. A lot of people didn't. So, my track record is nearly flawless for a reason, because I'm good at pattern recognition. I don't just trust everything I hear, and I don't need someone else to think for me. So, it's not a competition, but you telling me I have to do this. Did you see through Vivek? Did you know they were passing Israeli speech laws in 2019? Did you see through the pandemic in 2020? Did you do the type of reporting that I did? Can you go back and watch any of my reports and say that this isn't 100% right? All of my COVID reports are not even like they're 100% right. There's no room for in my reports for error. So it's like, it's okay, but like, I don't, just like someone else doesn't have to watch my show. They don't have to listen to my opinion. You telling me I have to do something? I do what I do for a reason, and my results speak for themselves. If people want to, figure things out on their own and do this and do that and get tricked and get that, it's okay. It's just not my style. But someone said, no need to defend yourself. Well, I like to just be transparent about why I do what I do. It's not like defending myself necessarily, but there's people that will tell me, oh, I should have done this. And I look at them, it's like, well, why did you think Vivek Ramaswamy, a pharmaceutical billionaire, was a good person, or like a serious candidate? Like, to me, like, it's not even, hold on. I'm going to put this light on real quick. Sorry about that. But, like, that was so obvious to me, but to like 99% of people, it wasn't obvious to. So it's like, I'm not demanding that they listen and think to me, but you can't tell me that I have to do what everyone else is doing. I don't have to. Do I think America could actually start to pay the debt off? I mean, they would have to try, but I don't think Trump's really trying. So maybe. Why are we doing dark mode? Hold on one second. That should be a little better. I apologize. Someone said, MAGA believe Cash and Bongino would drain the swamp in D.C. I mean, it's good to have hope, I guess, but also at a certain point, it's just good to, just see through it. That's another thing too. When it comes to podcasters, I mean, obviously people they do have massive influence. I'm more interested in Trump, Mike Johnson, the GOP. These are the people that are spending trillions of dollars. Erika Kirk, she's going to do some stuff. Nick's going to say some stuff. Candace is going to do some stuff. I'm not that interested in arguing with anyone for obvious reasons, but also it's like, what about the politicians that are about to spend $1 trillion and send hundreds of millions of dollars to Ukraine and Israel? That's where I wish we could all be united to like call them out. Can Turning Point can everyone do that? Or are we done doing that now? And maybe I'm realistic when it comes to human nature. Like, maybe people just can't see it. Maybe people can't see through Trump. Maybe people can't bring themselves to like come together on issues that actually matter. That was my issue with Turning Point for years. They say socialism sucks for years, but they don't want to talk about when Trump does socialism. So what's the point of the organization then? Like, if you're going to say socialism sucks, Ilhan Omar sucks, but when Trump prints trillions of dollars and gives pharmaceutical companies billions of dollars through socialism, where's Turning Point? Where's Daily Wire? where are any of these people? You know what I'm saying? So excuse me if I'm a little bit disillusioned with picking sides and listening to I see things the way I see things, and I would never force somebody to do what I'm doing if they're doing great work. If they're doing great work, it will speak for itself. My opinion doesn't matter. What I watch every day doesn't matter. My preferences, to be honest, I watch mostly UFC and MMA content. I don't even watch that much politics anymore because it's just a lot of circular stuff. It's like I could just take the whole next year off and just post videos I made in 2018. It's all the same stuff. I get why the controversy is more interesting, because when it comes to the people that are spending our money and lying to us and starting wars, it's the same. I could post an H-1B visa video I did about Trump lying about them from 2020. Most people, that's the thing, is most people weren't covering that 5 years ago. So it's all new to everybody. They're like, whoa, Trump is selling us out. It's like, yeah, wow, so new. How long are we going to stick on this topic, though? Are we going to all come together and call out our party, or are we just going to forget about it in a week and like pretend like Trump is like saving the world through peace plans? Like, I've kind of, I wouldn't say lost faith, but I think someone pointed this out, and I used to say it all the time. You get what you deserve, not what you want. You get what you've accomplished, not what you demand. And I think Republicans and MAGA, they want all these things because they want them really bad. They want, Fauci to get arrested. They want this. They want Mayorkas, but they don't think or do anything. So I think Trump is the leader that Republicans deserve. He's trying to kick out Thomas Massie and Marjorie Taylor Greene. If people can't come together and tell Trump, Thomas Massie, Marjorie Taylor Greene, and Rand Paul are good, and Lindsey Graham is bad, then we don't deserve a party. Like, this is the easiest thing that we could all rally together. Do we want to allow Trump to strip out our only few good Congress people for the worst, for people who work for Israel, essentially? Where is I don't see anything. And it's like everybody's talking about Candace and Erika. But the thing is, I think the Candace side of that debate are the people who agree with me. And I think the Turning Point side are mostly the people that won't talk about this. So it's like the same divide between this topic is the divide between every topic. It's the America First crowd and the people who just want to pretend like they don't see the Zionist first thing because they're a part of it. Someone said, late 2023, Nick gave you credit as a trailblazer about Israel on his show. That's nice of him. I wouldn't say I'm a trailblazer, but I'm definitely not the last person. I think there were a lot of people before me. I'm just an honest person. If you could bring things to my attention, I'll figure it out really fast. I think it comes from understanding that there's still things to learn, and regardless of where the information comes, if it challenges what I knew, like I thought Trump wasn't selling out, but as soon as people showed me that Trump was selling out, it was irrefutable. I was like, I thought he wasn't taking donor money. And then, Adam Green did a report and showed that he was taking like hundreds of millions of dollars. And I was like, well, that's true. It doesn't matter what you think about people, regardless of what you think about me or Adam or Nick or Candace, the truth is the truth regardless. I don't care if people like me or, that's how I kind of see things, but that's why I'm so not interested in just choosing and picking sides. But what people also have to remember too is I'm not just randomly watching shows. Like, for other people, this is entertainment. For other people, this is like a murder mystery, because that's kind of what it is. It's like the ultimate murder mystery. It's like, are we going to figure out what happened to Charlie? And now you have two sides. You have people that disagree with the FBI narrative, and then you have the other side that is just like, it was Tyler Robinson and this bullet. And it creates the perfect controversy and the perfect drama. So I understand why people want to listen to it all the time. And I understand who's going to get listened to the most because they're doing the most. It totally makes sense to me. I guess what I'm saying is, I know a lot because I've been in this industry for 10 years, right? I'm not just watching a show saying, oh, this sounds like, I know a lot of things. You know what I'm saying? I know who, when I was getting blacklisted in 2019, I know who never said anything to defend me. I know who threw me under the bus. I know who was willing to try to make me look bad in order to keep a job at a position. And it wasn't Candace, by the way. She never did that. I just wanted to say that because people are going to assume I'm talking about her. I'm not talking about her. I don't recall her ever doing that to me. And in fact, when Candace worked at Daily Wire, she invited me on her show. So I'm a little old fashioned where there's people on the Zionist side that are acting unhinged, but they've always been good to me. So I like to return the favor. It's like, I don't agree with you and I never will, but I'm not going to like personally attack you. With Candace, we had our moments, you know, because we knew each other really early. So it's like we had our little moments, but like Candace invited me to Daily Wire to be on her show at a time when nobody would really invite me on her show. So to Candace's credit, and just to make sure people don't think I'm talking about her, she didn't do that to me. There's times where she definitely went off and did her own thing, but when she had me on her show, I don't remember anybody else inviting me on her show. She brought me to the Daily Wire, right? Which I'm sure no one else at the Daily Wire would have brought me to. So that's what I'm saying about Candace. There's things that she's doing that I don't fully know what she's doing, and I'm interested to see where she goes with it. And to be honest, it's not really my thing, but I don't want to make it like a personal thing because she did include me in things and interview with me, and she was never afraid of like what they were saying about me. And then it happened to her. So it's like now she knows. And even then, she was never afraid to talk to me, which I appreciate. With that being said, I know other people that, you know, I've seen a lot, you know, and I've seen who's done what at what times. And I guess it makes me just not want to join any group, you know, like I don't want to join a group. I don't want to go to January 6th. I don't want to be this. I don't want to go here. It doesn't make any sense because I've seen things go weird really quickly and I don't have any motivation or inspiration to like hitch my wagon to someone else's wagon when my wagon has been in a good path for a long time. Like I don't need to do that. I don't want to do that. And I'm not in a position to do that. I'm not watching these streams as like a random, you know, person that doesn't know anything. I know a lot of things. I don't trust Daily Wire, really. I don't trust Turning Point. I never did. I never for like, I mean, maybe in like 2016 or something, but in 2019, if you would ask me like, oh, Daily Wire is just this innocent group pushing conservative politics. Like I never thought that. So my line of thinking isn't coming from like, I thought they were doing this, but then I figured out they were doing that. Like I've kind of known all of these things for a while. Someone said a free agent loser. You can call me that, but everywhere you work comes at there's a certain cost to doing everything. If you want to work under Tim Pool, you know, you got to put up with them. If you want to work at Daily Wire, there's certain things you can't talk about. If you want to get a job at Fox News or Newsmax, there's probably things that you can't say about foreign policy. If you wanted to work at Turning Point at a certain point, I'm sure there's a line that they were drawing, which makes this situation that much more interesting is that line was being changed. And I'm not saying that means anything, but that's why everybody thinks it means something because it is a piece of evidence. The line that Charlie drew at Turning Point, the line that blacklisted me, the line that shoved everybody honest to the side, Charlie was starting to take that line away and let Tucker Carlson speak and let Dave Smith debate. So that's what makes the timing even more interesting is like this powerful organization that always played ball with the establishment, that always played ball with the neocons and the Zionists, started having a little bit of dissidence, started saying, you know what? I want to let Tucker Carlson talk about Epstein in Israel. I want to let Megyn Kelly question who he worked for. I want to let Dave Smith debate somebody. Like that is all true. That it's not even like has nothing to do with who said what. It's literally true. Charlie absolutely was moving the line of Turning Point. So if he dies and then they move that line back, that is by definition a little strange, you know? And I understand that when you reach millions of people and say things are strange, then people start saying, well, they're saying this and they're saying that, you know, like, because Candace is so big. So if she says something's weird, then people will say, well, what are you saying? I don't know. Like I said, I haven't watched her last month, but it's like, how else do you describe what's going on? And I know that they know that too. So I don't listen to Turning Point that much either, but are they going to keep letting Tucker Carlson speak? Are they eventually going to try to not let him speak? Like, these are the things that will tell me what's really going on and who's taking over. Cause it's like, if something happened to Trump and JD Vance took over, some things are going to change and some things aren't. So it's okay for people to watch and analyze. There's no such thing as like, don't talk about it forever. Someone has to say something. It doesn't necessarily, I don't know. That's just how I feel. I'm not picking a side, but I have my own independent thoughts that are not necessarily completely, taken over by what someone else thinks. And that it doesn't make me a bad person. It doesn't make me not loyal. That's just the reality of human nature. Like, I don't want to pretend like I fully agree with someone, because I don't. If I did, there would be no reason to even have a show. Someone said, I don't believe Charlie was that ignorant. I think he was part of the kebab that everyone's pointing out. It makes no sense otherwise. Well, that's another thing too. It's like, this is my best analysis of it and just guessing. And I don't know who's saying what, because I'm not listening to what everyone's saying, but the people that are trying to act like Charlie was this guy who just didn't know what was going on and he was just, I mean, maybe, but I think Charlie was a part of the system. I do think Charlie was a part of the establishment. I think he was a part of the Republican Party and the GOP's youth outreach. I think he was given that position, and I think that he was a gatekeeper for a long time. But what I will say, and what the evidence shows me, thank you, Kirk. I see what you're saying. You said I helped you during COVID. I appreciate you, Kirk. But what is true, though, is like, I do think Charlie seemed like he was changing a little bit. And this is the crazy thing about politics. If you look at Marjorie Taylor Greene, she sucked up to Trump for the whole time. And then she just started questioning him a little bit, and then Trump turned on her. That's politics. Why do you think I keep my distance so much? I'm not into drama. I don't want somebody to try to like ruin my life off of something I said, but that's politics. It's like a giant cult. It's like, do you agree with everything Trump says, Marjorie? If not, you're thrown to the curb. So regardless of who did what to Charlie, it's a factual statement that he was facing pressure from donors and establishment people. And it's not like for no reason. He wasn't this outside podcaster who was just saying his opinion. He was an inside ball player for his whole career. He helped blacklist a lot of people for a long time. He was taking Zoom calls with rabbis who they said would tell him things, and he didn't even agree with them, but he would say them. Why would Charlie have to say things he didn't believe at a school conference? Did that not bring off a few alarm bells? So it's like Charlie wasn't this outsider at all. The exact opposite. He was like the ultimate insider. But here's the thing where it gets interesting. If he was an insider, but then all of a sudden he didn't want to play inside baseball and people started getting pissed off at him, that's what happened. And it's like, you can't talk about that without people saying, well, you said this. No, I said exactly what I said, because there's proof of that. There's proof that Charlie wanted to stop playing inside baseball, that Charlie wanted to expand his inside baseball to Tucker Carlson and Dave Smith. And then people started getting pissed at him. So I feel like one of the scariest places to be is an insider that doesn't want to play inside baseball anymore. The people that the Democrats hate is not the Republicans necessarily. It's the people who work for the Democrats and then steal their information off a computer or try to sue them. That's who Democrats hate, not the random, Ann Coulter. Yeah, they don't like her, but it's like the biggest threat to a Democrat is like a staffer who works for them and steals their information and tries to sue them. The biggest threat to a Republican is someone like Charlie Kirk, who's an inside baseball player who's trying to open up his tent to the people that are talking about topics that they've worked so hard. Like, if you would have asked me in 2019, what is the point of Turning Point? I would have told you then, I think Turning Point is a youth organization that is meant to get Republicans votes, but it's also meant to keep the Zionist, I would say Overton window from shifting too far. And Charlie, just like Ben Shapiro, are basically there to make sure that everybody that's a Republican wants to serve Israel or work for Israel or worship Israel or believe in Israel. That's the whole, like, if you were the best Republican in the world, but you slightly disagreed on that one topic, you're better off being Lindsey Graham or Ted Cruz than that person. I figured that out 6 years ago. So it's like, that's what Charlie's organization was. But he was starting to change that. And that's a factual statement that he was starting to change that. I'm not saying he was turning completely. I'm not saying that he was definitely going to do this or that. I don't know. He probably would have tried to finesse both sides for a long time because he liked to be that guy. But they were telling him, the bigwigs, the donors, the people with a lot of influence on the inside of the Trump administration, they were not wanting Charlie to open that door because Charlie was basically there to keep that door closed. That's my analysis of watching Charlie and Turning Point in 2020, 2021, 2022. I felt like their job was to be like, yeah, we're the youth, we're the Republicans, we're based, we're that, but we will tell everybody what box to stay in. Things that Nick Fuentes was saying in 2019, Charlie was saying were bad and racist, and then Charlie adapted those same views 3 or 4 years later. So he was like the gatekeeper in some ways, right? I'm not saying Charlie's bad, and I'm not trying to poo-poo his legacy. I'm just saying I think if he were alive, he would be upsetting people on the inside a lot more than on the outside because he was trying to, in my opinion, do a more righteous job and start leaning into the America first more than like the Zionists first. So, that's why this mystery is so interesting. And like I said, you have to have that as part of the equation, or else you're not fooling anybody. Like, will they say that at Turning Point? Will they admit that, or are they not? I don't know. But when I listen to them, it just feels like open shut case. Don't talk about it. And it's like, I get it, but this has all been bubbling up for a long time. And I think you can tell amongst all of what's going on, the people who are trying to say, close the door, stop talking about this, and the people that have a vested interest in keeping the conversation going. And if you look around, look at who wants to talk about this stuff more. It's all the people who are getting canceled by the establishment for talking about the relationship between America and Israel. And all the people who are trying to close the door are all of the Zionist firsters who want to cancel everybody. So I understand why people are picking sides, because if you had to pick a side, one of the sides seems a little curious and the other side seems very uncurious. And all I'm telling you is I'm not watching these things wondering what's going on. I already know what's going on. I already got blacklisted 6 years ago. I already got the text messages saying they're saying you're this, they're saying you're that. I know who's who. I know these characters. I know what people are doing. I know the path that they're on. So I don't need to be a part of anything because I already know way more than most people know that are just watching a show or listening to Erika on Fox News. And that's like the overarching reality of everything that's happening. Take away the characters and what he said and what she said. You have a bunch of people who want the president and the Republican Party to be America first and serve the country that they're supposed to serve. And you have a whole other group of people who have essentially taken over Trump's administration, and Trump works for them. And Trump has no interest in people like me or Candace or others, outside of our opinions on Charlie. It's like Candace couldn't work at a place because she talked about a certain topic. I got blacklisted for talking about a certain topic. Nick got all these other libertarian types, they can't work anywhere because nobody will let them work anywhere. There's a vested interest in the Fox News, Newsmax, Daily Wire, Turning Point situation where it's like they want to keep the narrative in this bubble. Ilhan Omar sucks. Socialism sucks. Look at the left. It's only the rhinos. That's what they want. That's why it makes it so interesting. Charlie was breaking away from that. Charlie was, but he was a guy who was so connected that he almost couldn't break away from it. Someone said Anomaly's unblacklisted. I don't know what's going on, but it's like if they unblacklisted Nick Fuentes, then to be honest, I don't even think I'm blacklisted anymore. I just don't think I get enough views for anybody to give a shit about me, just to be honest. It's like Nick is unblacklisted because everybody could get a lot of views off him because he's popular. I'm probably still blacklisted from working at certain news organizations, but they would talk to me. I'm not blacklisted to have a conversation with, but I'm probably blacklisted to be attached to any organization. But I don't care. I'm not a victim. If I could get 5 million views for Piers Morgan, he'd have me on too. Piers Morgan is a clout chaser. He's a total clip farmer, and that's all he does. So it's like the only reason they seem like they unbanned Nick, unless there's some nefarious reason, is they all want to just everybody's an opportunist. Oh, Nick can get 5 million views. Oh, let's have him on. And that kind of shows me, like, even now people are like, oh, you should have Nick on. Nick would talk to you. I bet he would talk to me because he knows I'm one of the few people that never like threw him under the bus, 6 years ago. So I bet he would come on my show. But it's like, I don't care about money and clicks that much. I don't, I wish sometimes I wish I did because it's smarter. But look what happens when you get a lot of views. Like, Candace says foreign countries are trying to assassinate her. Charlie Kirk got murdered. Tim Pool claims he's getting shot at. Like, you know what I'm saying? Most of the people in this, it's like, what is life about? And I'm not trying to get so deep with it, but I know myself. And it's like, how bad do I want 5 million views? Not as bad as when I first started out. And I'll be honest about it. If you would have told me when I first started rapping or first started making political commentary, do you want 5 million views? Of course. But I have 1 billion views. I'm reaching millions of people a day. I tweet 5 times a day. One of them gets 400,000 views. It means nothing to me anymore. I would like more money. It probably would be smart to save more, but I don't need money. I don't need attention. I don't want attention. I'd rather money than attention at this point. I have enough attention. I'm not a narcissist. I need 100 million. Dude, I've reached 1 billion people on Facebook. I have over 1 billion views, 1 billion with a B, on my Facebook page, on my posts. What do I need? 5 billion, 10 billion? What do I need? Anomaly needs more views. What do I need? 500,000 views on every video, except for instead of like 25, 40 between all the platforms. It's like, I don't care. I don't really care anymore, and maybe one day I will care, and then I'll try to scale my business or my views a little more. But that's really where I'm at right now. But that's also why I give grace to all of these other people. Like, I don't know what it's like to be Candace or Tucker or Nick Fuentes. Like, they are reaching millions of people every time they talk. It's very good, but it's also very crazy, Like, with great power comes great responsibility. I don't envy it. And I have a lot of grace for them because I think, especially in this day and age, it's weird. It's weird to get a lot of attention. I logged into Twitter or TikTok or whatever. And the first thing I see on TikTok is somebody zooming in on Google Maps to somebody's mansion and being like, yo, look at this house. It's like somebody's private property has like 20 million views because they have a sick house. Like, it's just weird. The whole world is weird now. You got weirdo billionaires like messing out on stage talking about AI. I'm chilling. You know what I'm saying? But here's the beautiful, and this is what I wish everybody would have a little bit of. And I think some people do it well, others not. Everyone is not me and everyone is not you. If people could be a little bit more compassionate and understand that different people play a different role, then I think the world would be a better place. So it's like, when I look at Tucker Carlson and I disagree with him, do I say, I hate Tucker Carlson, he disagreed with me? No. He does some things way better than me. Some things I feel like he's way worse at explaining than me. But Tucker is a very interesting guy and I tend to really like him. That's fine. It's not a competition. Same with like Nick and Candace. I don't know. That's why I don't really want to argue with people, because it's like there's certain things that they're doing that are incredibly impressive, brave, incredible, and they're being true to themselves, or it seems like they are. And that's why would I want them to do what I do? As long as I think they're doing a majority work in the right direction, then it's like a game of like, okay, like, is the net positive outweighing the net negative? I tend to think so, but only God really knows. Only time will really tell. I'm very patient now. I used to not be patient. Agree with me right now. Think the way I think. Like, especially with what Candace is doing, time will tell. You know what I'm saying? I wish I cared more about what I thought, right? What's your opinion? You should do this. You should watch this. I don't matter. You know what I'm saying? My opinion doesn't matter. What I watch doesn't necessarily matter. It'll increase my knowledge of the topic, but I know, regardless of my knowledge on the topic, time will tell. If Candace solves this mystery, time will tell. If she doesn't, time will tell. If she doesn't, but she gives information that makes it more interesting, like the bullet thing that Tyler said in the text, then there's something there anyway, So I don't take myself that seriously. I don't think I'm not God. I'm not a gatekeeper. I don't control what people say. Everybody's saying everything on podcasts. And if people want me to like condemn someone, there's going to be a lot more people I'm going to condemn first. Cause it's like, I would like, let me give you an example with Piers Morgan and Nick Fuentes. Piers Morgan gets to sit there and say Nick's a sexist, Nick's a racist, Nick's a misogynist, Nick's an anti-Semite. Okay, Piers, sure. Who are you though, Piers? How many times did you push the vaccine and you admitted that you were wrong? Do you feel bad about it, Piers Morgan? How many kids and women and people do you think listen to you that got it, that now you disagree? Do you feel bad about that, Piers Morgan? How many wars did you push for the networks you worked for, Piers Morgan? Do you feel bad about it, Piers Morgan? Look at Great Britain, Piers Morgan. You don't agree with the speech laws, but you can't do anything to stop it, Piers Morgan. You're a coward. Do you feel bad about it? Great Britain used to be a nation of its people, and now it's being whittled down and won't even exist in 70 years. Do you feel bad about it, Piers? So it's like, I could play that game. I'll talk about Candace and Erika. I'll talk about Nick and Piers because it's topical. But the truth is, it's like, well, what about what she said? What about why is Piers Morgan so much better than everyone else? Because he just is very safe. It's like we have this different set of standards for people that are I would say more outspoken and more unfiltered, but I don't see it that way. I never thought that Ben Shapiro and Charlie were so much better than Nick because they wouldn't say certain, like, that's not how I see the world. Like, if someone makes an edgy joke and says something very crude and Piers Morgan says nothing, I don't look at that and say, oh, he's a way better person because he didn't say anything. Piers is a total coward. His mistakes have probably cost a lot of people a lot of things, yet he just assumes that doesn't matter. Oh, you were really nice, but you started 5 wars for the West and it's killed millions of people and set all of our countries back. Europe and America are failing because of the news analysts that were on television starting all these wars. Oh, but I need to condemn Nick and Candace and Tucker, right? Or else I'm not on your team. It's like, who cares what these people think? I don't live in their world. I don't live in anyone's world. I'm not being dragged into someone else's reality on any side. And I don't want to be shamed about it. I don't want to be shamed from the Turning Point side. I don't want to be shamed from the Candace side, nor should I, because it's not my role to pick a team and be a fan and say things. I'm saying what I'm saying. This whole live stream is what I think. That it's the authentic version of myself based on who I am and things that I've learned in the industry. I don't, and once again, I don't, I'm not seeking the things that certain people think that I am. Like, people are like, Anomaly should have way more views. Sure, but I wish I cared. Honestly, I wish I cared more, but I don't. It's like, maybe I need to care more next year about how many views I'm getting. Oh, I don't see your stuff on Instagram, Anomaly. I guess I got 20 million views this year instead of 100 million views. Oh no. That doesn't make me, it doesn't complete my life. It doesn't make me happy. In fact, I learned out over the last year or two that it was starting to negatively affect my health. It was starting to negatively affect my life, caring so much about how much content I did and not thinking about myself, thinking about, oh, I got to say something every day, all the time. So I've taken a step back from that, but read a few comments and then I'm gonna cut it off in like 2-3 minutes. Someone said Piers is a CUCK. His wife takes. Well, I don't know what Piers is or isn't, but he's definitely a beta. Someone said, thank you for demonstrating how to stand strong on principle. I'm just being myself. Thank you, Sheila. And this is what I'll say to everybody too. Discernment is important with me, with anybody. So if you strengthen yourself, you're more equipped to learn things. And I think, especially in this world of politics, when it comes to Trump and people like Vivek and stuff, they're going to try to flatter you. They're going to try to appeal to you. They're going to put on a cowboy hat. They're going to say, look at the left. The more you learn from all the mistakes that we've made, it's easier to not get tricked like that. But when you're not getting tricked like that, people will shame you. That's part of the groupthink. It's like when you're a kid, everyone does something and they're trying to bully you into doing it. It's going to happen from the left, from the right, etc. But when you have good discernment, that's what you need. Because if you don't have good discernment, and some people have a God's gift, but other people, you can improve it, just like anything in your life. It doesn't matter what side you're on, because you're going to constantly get tricked. Oh, I'm a left winger. I'm a right winger. Trump did this. Oh, I got tricked. Oh, this person tricked me. Oh my gosh, I thought this. I was a graper. Now I'm in this. Now I'm in that. Like, it's like, figure out yourself, and then you can figure out who you are. You don't want to like bounce around between like podcasters and political commentators, because it's going to be like a never ending cycle. And then when you're clear as yourself, you'll be able to listen to somebody and be like, that was entertaining. That was good. I agree with that. I disagree with that. And it's okay. It's, but It's definitely interesting. I mean, it's definitely more interesting when there's like drama and beef. And like I said, outside of Charlie and what's going on there, it's Zionist firsters versus America firsters. It's Lindsey Graham, Mark Levin, and Ben Shapiro, and now Donald Trump, who has chosen that side over people like Thomas Massie, Marjorie Taylor Greene, and Ron Paul. So with that sort of stuff, like, I'm very clear with what I think. I like Rand Paul, Marjorie Taylor Greene, and Thomas Massie more than I like all the people that Trump hires. I don't like Marco Rubio. I don't trust these people. That I'm clear about because I have enough data points where it's like, that makes sense to me. So, that to me, that's the overarching theme of all this. It's just there's an event bigger than that is taking those two sides, and they're fighting about another topic. But just like the left and the right, this is going to be the next 10 years. There's going to be a new topic, and the Zionist side and the America First side are going to argue over that, and then it's going to be this, and then they're going to say condemn Tucker, and then they're going to say believe Turning Point and condemn Candace, and then they're going to say, Thomas Massie's a bad man. Let's go with Miriam Adelson and try to get him out of office. Like, it's going to be nonstop tricks. You got to figure out the story before you get attached to the characters, and then you won't get tricked again. I told people this before they even sold CBS, or before Barry Weiss even worked for CBS, and this is going to be true for the next 10 years. CBS was bought out by David Ellison. David Ellison is Larry Ellison's son. Larry Ellison is an outspoken, huge fanatic of Israel. They're going to hire Barry Weiss. They're going to try to convince Republicans that it's this moderate network that's totally not left, and the entire thing is going to be a funnel to Zionism, just like every network already is and always will be. They're just adapting what they feed to you in order to lead you to the same place. If you understand that, you don't need to get tricked back and forth for 7 years, because that's going to be the reality of that network probably for a while. I'm rooting for CBS. I like UFC, so I'm going to have to get Paramount Plus to watch it. I hope that they do better content, but I don't need a controlled opposition funnel to Zionism like every other network in America, while politicians are passing speech laws to call me an anti-Semite for talking about it. And it's like, who told you this 3 months ago? Everyone's going to start talking about, and it's not a competition, but I'm ahead of these. Like, I know what's going on. I know the story. I know all the characters. Like, it's not interesting to me as much maybe to some other people, just because it's like, that's going to stay the same for 6 years. Hopefully people can see that, or else they're just going to get knocked back and forth like a ping pong ball. Like, CBS is going to try to rebrand and say, we're not left wing anymore. We're for both sides. As long as you support Israel and do everything Israel wants. Okay. Isn't that already what it was? It was just a more left wing version of that. Now it's going to be a more right wing version of that. It's the fact. Marie said, Anomaly is one of a kind, a good-hearted, genuine, authentic, selfless person on the internet. I do what I can, but I have a long way to go on a lot of topics, but I appreciate the compliment. And I got into news. I said, there's too much fear. There's not enough compassion, and there's just definitely not enough truth. So that's my battle every day. My battle is not to tell everyone else what to say. I'm focused on what I'm doing, and I'm extra careful about what I do. So that tends to be what I enjoy. Other people, they like crazier stuff. They like street interviews, that's fine. And what I'm trying to tell people too is, I'm not playing the fence or trying to like be passive aggressive. I'm just being genuine. Everyone likes different stuff. I'm not trying to tell you what to listen to. If you want to watch anything, that's on you. I just can't pretend to like something that I don't like when, it's just not who I am. So I tend to like similar things to what I'm doing. That just works for me, and that's the way I like to do it. But there are moments where it's really funny to watch, like Nick on Piers Morgan. Like, it's not supposed to be funny, but it kind of is in some ways. So it's like, I get watching stuff that's different as well. Like, sometimes I enjoy watching different methods, but with my platform, I feel good when I'm airtight about what I'm saying. And also, praise be to the Lord, I've never dealt with a lawsuit. And here's the two things about it. It's a double win for me, because it's like, if I'm completely accurate and I'm very honest about everything, I can't be sued. But also, it means I'm the truth. Like, you can't fight fake news and then become fake news. That's what a lot of Republican influencers do. They're like, I hate the left. And then they start shilling lies just because they're not the left. It's like fake means fake. You could be a fake Republican and you could be a fake Democrat. Most Republicans are fake. And I've been telling people that for 6 years. It's like, I'm at competition with myself. The truth is the truth. It's not like I'm 50% right, but CBS is 80% wrong. Sure, that means I'm better than them, but I'm not trying to just be better than CNN. I'm trying to be, and it's impossible to ever get it right, but it's like I strive on being 100% accurate. I strive on being compassionate when I'm not accurate, and I strive on being graceful when I don't know what I'm talking about. And I've never had an issue because I'm not out here just loosely saying things. I like that. It works for me. It makes me feel comfortable. It makes me feel good because I think, to get my point across for me and my personality, I don't need to be someone I'm not. And I think my best reports of all time, if you look at them, it's not my anger, it's not my emotion. I mean, sometimes I'm passionate and people like it, but it's the accuracy. People didn't say, "Oh, I like Anomaly because he has long hair and he looks like this." I mean, some people probably do, but most people who like my videos, they say, "You're really honest. You call out both sides. You're willing to tell the truth. You reported accurately about Big Pharma." My accuracy is my strong suit. My ability to get out of my own way sometimes when I don't need to make some grandiose theory about Big Pharma to show you the real theory about Big Pharma. There doesn't need to be some claim that it's snake venom or everyone's going to die for taking it. It's probably not true. I mean, I don't know about the snake venom thing, but I tend to think that wasn't true. But also like the everyone's going to die. That wasn't true. Everybody was like overdoing that. It's like in order to show the reality of what's going on with Big Pharma, I don't need to lie. I don't need to exaggerate. I don't need to make claims. Let me just show you. Let me show you what's going on, exactly what's going on. And I trust you and people who watch to come to the right conclusion. I don't need to baby people. I don't need to lead people. I'm not running for office. I'm not sailing across the Delaware River. If I become that type of leader, then, you could decide whether you want to follow me or not. But until then, I trust people to come to get it. I don't need to go the full distance in order for people to get there, but it's just my style. Someone said, if Tim humbled himself, but he's against Christ, his mouth confessed as much as he mocked. God bless Tim Pool. Pray for Tim Pool. I don't know what's going wrong with that guy, but I think Tim's issues have nothing to do with Candace Owens. Like he could make it about Candace and say all these things about her. And I listened to some of it. He wasn't making sense and he was doing some really sneaky stuff. But in general, once again, I guess she included him in a thumbnail or something. So I don't know how it started, but Tim needs to find God, and I pray for him. And I think whatever's bothering Tim, I don't think it roots to Candace because I've seen him spiral. He spirals like once a year, even when he's not talking about Candace. So it's like, do we have to now pretend that Tim's only spiraling because of Candace? And if it weren't for Candace, Tim wouldn't be spiraling. Bro, Tim spirals all the time. He yells all the time. He talks down to everybody all the time. I think his battles, his internal battles have nothing to do with Candace. But if they cross paths and bother each other for a few weeks, that's on them. Pray for both. But I'm not a fan of that guy, if you haven't noticed. Someone said, did I see his video from this morning? He said Candace hated Charlie. I can't watch Tim for more than 2 minutes because his demeanor just bothers me. Like when I listen to Vivek, I immediately his demeanor, his style of talking, I just couldn't. I was like, I don't like this guy. Maybe that's wrong, but it turned out to be somewhat right. With Tim, I can't listen to Tim. It doesn't matter what he says. He's like spiraling all the time. He's just annoying. So no, I didn't hear what he said. But here's another thing too. It's like, I don't know. Some people will probably be like, Anomaly didn't say enough or didn't do this. How do I know what someone thought about Charlie? Like, this is not my problem. Charlie, I think Candace liked Charlie. That the evidence seemed that way. He's claiming she didn't like Charlie. This just reminds me of high school. It's like, I'll be honest. I know myself. I wasn't the biggest fan of Charlie. I feel really bad about it when he died. And I feel like it's evil what they did to him. And I think that posthumously, it made me like Charlie more, seeing that he was standing up to his, to his donors and stuff. And honestly, even this year, I was starting to like Charlie more because he was hosting Tucker Carlson. I told people at Turning Point, I was like, dude, this is way better than 3 years ago. Like, this is awesome. But how do I know what someone thought about Charlie? Like, I wasn't the biggest fan of Charlie. I'm able to admit it. What does Tim say that Candace was? Bro, I don't care what Tim says. So is this gonna be the next 5 months? Everybody fighting with each other like high school over who liked who and who didn't like who? This is what they want to engage in. I don't want to engage in it. Tim has his own reasons, but if there was nothing on TV and Tim Pool was on every channel, I'd shut it off and go for a walk. I can't listen to the guy. But someone said he claims he has proof. Well, then let him show it. But I'm just not interested in this like drama. And it's the same with like the Candace thing. Like, there's a lot of information coming out that's helpful, but like even when they were beefing with like Candace and Nick, that stuff, I know it gets views and I know that they're passionate about what they're saying, but I don't like to see everybody fighting, to be honest. I can't stand Tim Pool. It's still annoying to me. Like, even like Nick was like, I'm going to go after Candace if no one else does. I don't know what people's intentions are. Like, why does Nick want to go after Candace so bad? Why does Candace not like Nick? Why does Tim think that? It's like, what does Susie think about Bobby? I don't know, dude. I'm trying to do news analysis and be accurate. I'm not trying to sit at the lunchroom table and listen to everybody fight all the time. I'm 36 years old now. I have a business to run. I have personal things to accomplish. I like to work out and play sports. Like, I don't even like Tim at all. I can't imagine trying to beef with Tim Pool over the course of 8 weeks. It would just drain my health. What's the point? Where is it going? So I know there's a point to what they're all doing, but I hope people can understand what I'm saying. It's not playing the fence. It's not like sitting on the sidelines because I'm scared. I don't understand. I don't want to fight with these people. It doesn't make sense to me. I'm more interested now in a few things. I'm definitely interested in like the court case of Tyler Robinson, seeing what comes out, what Candace is doing, but also Trump is leading our party, blowing it completely, printing trillions of dollars, doing tariffs, starting wars, lying about it all, not doing a good job. His entire administration seems like they work for Israel, just doing anti-Semitism all the time. And they're printing trillions of dollars. Candace Owens makes money. Turning Point makes money. Tim Pool does or doesn't make money. I don't know what he's doing. But none of what they're doing is as big as the government printing trillions of dollars, right? So it's like, oh, Candace did this. Tim did this. The government and Trump and Republicans who are supposed to represent us, who we just voted for, are printing trillions of dollars, more money than anyone's made podcasting. They're taking and sending to Ukraine. I tend to care about that more because it's a tangible thing that nobody wants to talk about. It's like, I don't care what Tim Pool says. I don't care what he thinks about. To be honest, I don't even like it. If Candace was annoyed at Charlie or wasn't annoyed at Charlie, I don't think it really matters. That I didn't really like Charlie that much. Does that mean I'm a bad person? I don't know. I just didn't. Like, I didn't like everything he was doing, but the last year I started liking Charlie a lot more. And as I started liking Charlie a lot more, the neocons and the Zionists started hating Charlie. It doesn't, I don't get where everyone's going with this, but if Tim wants to talk about it and freak out and scream, there's an audience for that. And there's an audience for what Candace is doing. I completely understand it, but I don't know. How long are they going to fight? How long is it going to go on? I'm sure I'll see the funniest clips on Twitter. That's how I see it. The best and funniest clips I'll see on Twitter, and I'll laugh at it, and then I'll watch a UFC video because that is more fun for me. Someone said Nick gets irritated by the conspiracy theorist industrial complex. I don't blame him. I see. That's the thing with that topic, and then I really have to go because I have to pee. But this is an issue that I agree and disagree with Nick on. I get why some people bother him because they're a little loose with it, but I do think that in some ways, Nick, like he doesn't seem to care about the corruption of big pharma and the fact that they're spraying all our foods with pesticides. Nick's kind of like one of those guys who's like, I'll eat whatever. I don't care about working out. Like, I'll be healthy, which is a good mentality to have. I think there's people that live till they're 100 and they eat like Campbell's soup every day. It's like, I'm not mad at Nick for personally feeling that way. I'm just not that type of person. Like, I do care about pharmaceutical corruption. I do think some people reach with some conspiracy theories, but I think him just completely believing the FBI narrative doesn't make sense. So it's like, I get his criticism of the conspiracy theory industrial complex, but he's not providing that much as far as on these topics that they are. So then people will listen to them. With that being said, though, I do think that there's certain topics that Nick, he really explains really well, you know, that other people can't explain as well. So everyone has their pros and cons, and that's his personal preference. He's not a guy who cares about pharmaceuticals and, you know, the whole COVID stuff. Like Nick wasn't somebody like leading the way, speaking about vaccines and lockdowns. Like, I don't even remember anything he said during the pandemic but other things he's great at. And I don't look at that and hate him over it. I just, you know, I agree somewhat with his criticism of it, but I disagree with his analysis of everything. I think a lot of the conspiracy theorists are a little bit closer to the truth than he is on a lot of these topics. But, you know, everyone, like, it's hard to be like, oh, it's the conspiracy theorists versus the normies, because there's every conspiracy theory. You could log into Twitter and people will say, this country killed Charlie. Tyler Robinson killed Charlie. They'll say, he's not even dead. It's like, you can't please the conspiracy industrial complex, because there's 50 different theories out. And if you don't agree with all of them at the same time, they hate you and think you're a shill. So I'm frustrated with that complex sometimes, because like there's always a dumber theory out there that during the lockdown, they were like, you know, the lockdown is this moment Q was telling us about, and Trump's about to arrest all the pedophiles. And I was like, I don't think this is what this is. And they were like, you're a shill. So it's like, those people annoy me too. But, you know, that's why I just do my own thing. It's like, it's nice to have grace, you know, and let's be honest, anybody that's watched me, there's times where I absolutely have not had a lot of grace, and I'm sure there will be again, but it feels nice to have grace with people, because some people have good pros and some people have cons, you know. Even with Charlie, it's like, yeah, I don't agree with a lot of what he's doing, but he runs a great youth organization that's good for Republicans. But, you know, are you doing it for the right reasons, or are you doing it for the Zionists and the neocons? And I think Charlie was on both sides. He played both sides, and he started to come to the side of the light, and now he's dead. So there's, you know, it's like, I don't understand the people who are like, don't talk about it. Dude, it's a massive high profile murder that happened in public that is really weird and came at a really weird time, and nobody wants to talk about it, or a lot of people don't want to talk about it. Like, there's got to be a way for people to identify that, but at the same time admit that, like, you know, like I said, I'm not listening to every theory on Charlie Kirk, but I can't wait to see the court case, because I want to see what they're saying, because with what they said so far, I would like to see more personally, but I'm not on the jury. It's all very strange. Appreciate y'all. God bless you. God bless your family. God bless America. God bless the world. Thanks for listening. Thanks for hanging out. I'll be back with more videos soon, and I do have like a news report coming out. Let me know what you think about in the comment section. What you agree with, what you disagree with. But I won't take anything personally. Just, I would say, you know, just use your discernment. And I don't want to say don't take it too seriously, but I think politics, there's a lot of looping going on, and there's a lot of like circular situations. So I think for your own personal health, don't stress out over this stuff, regardless of, even if you disagree with everything I said, it's not worth stressing out and freaking out over this stuff. It's definitely better to be calm and like intake this stuff inquisitively, without like, you don't want to look like Tim Pool for sure. Like, you don't want to be like bugging out, spurging out. Like, that's not